Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know show. We are locked and loaded, ready to go. Listen, we just completed the regular season. It's official now. We are done for this season. For a lot of us, unfortunately, we got to look forward to the off season now. But for some of us, they are teams that have made the cut, that are going to be playing a playoff game this weekend. Very exciting for those teams. And some teams we didn't expect to be there slipped right in the last second, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we are going to dive right into that. But before we get there, we are going to talk some coaching news. There's some huge news, whether it be in the NFL and in college. But no news is bigger than the fact that the man, the myth, the legend that is Nick Saban has officially retired from college football. So Rome has fallen. That is exactly what happened. So we've already seen kind of like a slight decline of Alabama, not in terms of talent pool, but just their play on the football field. It hasn't been the same as in their national championship years. So Nick Saban decides to pull the plug, says, you know, I've had a really long run, a very successful run, and now it's time to hang the hat up, you know? Put the clipboard away, the whistle away, and I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah, because, I mean, you say even, last couple seasons haven't been as good, but, I mean, they were just even the college football playoff even, too, and just lost in overtime to Michigan, the champion. So, I mean, they were still even there. That's how big or how high that bar has been set now because, being there for 17 seasons, 13 conference championships, I think it is, and 6 titles with them. Amazing career again. Revitalized after, a really good head coach in college. Tried the NFL a little bit. Didn't work out as coordinator or even head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Back to it and resurgence. And just like that, now he's an icon.
Well, he's always been the college coach. His very, very short stint for the Miami Dolphins didn't go so well because it's a completely different way of coaching, a completely different way of constructing a roster. College, you're recruiting. In the offseason, you're recruiting. You're going to house to visit the schools and get these players and try to convince them, hey, come to my university. I'll make you a star. I'll get you, on that plane ticket to the NFL draft, hopefully in the near future. So that's a whole different way but that's what he was really good at. He was really good at, obviously just a great coach in general, but also he was great with the families. He was great with the student athletes. And I feel like that's why it transferred to the football field for him and all of his success. So kudos to Nick Saban. Congratulations on a very long and prestigious career. Enjoy the rest of your life, bro. You really are. You definitely deserve it. Alabama fans are crushed, though, because now what's happening is it's a ripple effect. When a legendary coach like that decides to retire, now all of the eligible transfer student athletes can now just say, well, I'm decommitting. I'm going to a different school. I'm entering my name into the transfer portal because Nick recruited me. He's no longer here. Coach is gone. Well, why am I going to stay? Because now some of the things that he was promised, there's no point in being there. So now you're seeing all these very talented 5-star athletes, 4-star, whatever. Now they're starting to jump. And now who knows where they're going to go. It's going to be very exciting in the college atmosphere right now to see where all these talented players are going to transfer to.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got our first comment in the house with us tonight. We've got, what is that, Brandon Derringer? Is that what that says? Degener in the house with us tonight.
Yeah, they said, go Steelers. Hopefully the weather stays to what they're predicting. And hey, the Steelers made a late push and got the job done. They had to go into Baltimore this past weekend and beat the Ravens. Now, obviously, we got to put it into perspective here. If they didn't have some of their starters playing, it is what it is. But they overcame them anyway. They did what they had to do to get to the playoffs and let the bet. Who knows what's going to happen? Once you get to the playoffs, it's like anything could happen from there on. The Steelers, they've done everything right to this point as far as it seems like they've found their quarterback who's been on the roster this whole entire season in Mason Rudolph. And that now that he's gotten the opportunity to start once again, he's showing everybody like, hey, I'm the best quarterback for the job for Pittsburgh. I can run this offense like no other. I can run it better than Kenny Pickett. I can run it better than Mitch. Like, just give me the football, let me start, and I'll take us as far as we can go. So let's just wait and see how far he can go with this team. Now the Steelers got another tall order. Obviously, it's not going to get any easier. First round of the playoffs, and let's just see what they can do now.
All right, then we've got Tom Leiters in the house with us tonight too.
Yeah, Saban. Yeah, it just said Saban retired immediately after Pete Carroll was fired. Well, it was a mutual parting ways, and use the term mutual very loosely because Pete did not want to give up the head coaching job. He fought to try to stay in that seat, but the front office wasn't listening to him. They've already made that decision. And I don't know how early it was that they made this decision, but they've made it and they finalized it. So there was nothing that Pete Carroll was going to say or show that he can do that was going to change their mind. So unfortunately for Pete now, but at least he still has a job. Like, he's still going to, it sounds like he's going to still be involved in the front office in some capacity as an advisor is what is being reported. But it's not, he could also, if he really wanted to branch out, he could probably coach somewhere else if he wanted to. So that's always an opportunity for him. Who knows? Maybe we'll see his name pop up for across the league maybe. And then we have Ryan Graham chiming in and said, what are the Raiders doing right now with Pierce? Nothing. Nothing. They're not doing anything with him. Because here's the interesting thing about the Raiders situation now. Now, this is what's being reported out of Vegas, is that they've told all of the assistants, all of the coaches that now are kind of in limbo, if you get an opportunity, go ahead and take it. They're just telling them, like, hey, we're not going to hold you back from it. If you want to go and get some job security or look to go somewhere else, feel free. However, doesn't apply to everybody because as of today, they received a request to interview Patrick Graham, the D coordinator, for the same job as a DC elsewhere. And Mark Davis and the brass rejected the offer. So clearly there's some lines being drawn in the sand where, like, you can go and sign any of our assistants, but D coordinator, no, we don't want to let him go. Unless it's for, obviously, a head coaching gig that he might go interview for. But same capacity, it looks like they want to try to keep him there, which could be telling because maybe they've kind of tipped their hand in that aspect. Is like they don't want Patrick Graham to leave for the same job. Does that mean that they most likely are going to hire Antonio Pierce as the HC and keep the continuity of coaches as much as they can there? So if they refuse that, it's kind of making me think like, well, maybe they don't want to move on from everybody just yet. So as far as like the top end coaches.
Yeah, they could be trying to keep their cards hidden. Like you said, Antonio Pierce there, he might have said, hey, if you guys want me, I'm here and I want this guy, so don't get rid of him and blah, blah. But I think they're also maybe keeping their options open. You know what I mean? Again, so you're going to say, we're still available out there, but these guys can go look at whoever they want, and then, not let everybody, so we get that.
And they've also gotten requests on the GM Champ Kelly, the interim GM for the Raiders. I don't know if they're official requests yet, but there's some talk about him possibly interviewing to be a GM elsewhere as well. And other news about former Chargers GM Tom Tedesco. Mark Davis looks like he's going to be interviewing him for the GM job. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but he's starting to get the wheels turning here. It looks like he's going to look to hire a GM first. Champ Kelly, I would still imagine, is still in the running for that seat, but now things will start to get going. We'll start to finally see what takes place, what GM he hires, and then from that point, we'll kind of get a breakdown of what coach they might be looking for.
Yeah. And again, Jim Harbaugh is taking his time too after winning the national championship with Michigan. So
he's a hot name right now.
That hot name, and he can just do whatever right there. I know, and he's toying with people out there. But he said, I've been contacted by a few franchises. There's a historic franchise involved too. And by the way, my favorite color is black, anything too. So kind of hinting out there with a few different ones. And there's a few different teams that are looking for, a head coach that have black in them too. So, I mean,
there's only one that has black that I think he's really serious about.
But Tom Leiter says Antonio Pierce will be interviewed by all teams because of the Rooney Rule.
Actually, you know what's funny is he won't be interviewed by all teams because you're seeing it right now. Leslie Frazier was fired from his duties, and he's available out there. He's been out there like for most of the season, but now it seems like he's getting head coaching interviews now. Looks like he's going to be looking to go interview elsewhere. So like guys like that, like Leslie Frazier, like let's be honest. Leslie Frazier, we haven't heard this guy's name in a few months. Now all of a sudden, Leslie Frazier going to interview for a head coaching gig. Why? Oh, that's right. We still have that stupid rule called the Rooney Rule, where it really doesn't apply anymore in today's NFL. But because it's still there, teams are going to just bring in guys like Leslie Frazier, and it's probably not even a real interview. He knows it. It's almost like a waste of his time. It's a waste of the team's time, but they have to do it.
Look at my African American over here.
So, I mean, that's the issue. So now you're going to see teams do this, and it won't be just Antonio Pierce. It'll be a bunch of guys. It'll be special teams coordinators. It'll be maybe a quarterback's coach. You know what I mean? And they're going to just bring them in for interviews, and they might not even be genuine. It's got to be so frustrating. I can only imagine being in that mindset of saying, "Hey, they call you up. Oh yeah. Oh, you want to interview me? Yeah, cool. I'll be right there." And then like going into it, like you're being told, like it's an interview, but unless you wow them, unless you're like, "Oh man, we never anticipated this," you're really not likely going to even be sniffed at.
Right, which I always thought was kind of counterproductive of the whole thing, and almost.
But it's because of the rule.
Racist in itself, I would say. But we also have some more comments here, Joe. Who do we got?
We got
Eric Bowers. Eric Bowers in the house with us tonight.
Eric Bowers coming in here. I know he's a Michigan fan. He's super excited, just like you are, after winning the national championship.
Yes, I'm very excited.
He said Pierce deserves to be the head coach of the Raiders. He could help turn that team around, or he helped turn that team around after the nightmare that was Josh McDaniels. Yeah, what he did is he didn't really turn the team around. What was it more than not? What was missing is the locker room. What was missing was that attitude, that stigma of football camaraderie that was. It was all gone. It was like life was sucked out of the team when Josh McDaniels was there. He was all business. You do it my way or the highway type of mentality. And he never had any personalization, could never get along with the players. And if you're going to be successful in this league, you got to have some kind of personal, humanitarian type of connection. And he just doesn't have it. He's more like a robot. Mm-hmm. So we just knew that wasn't going to happen. But Pierce, you're right. Pierce he brought life to the locker room. He brought a mentality. He brought a mentality. He brought an attitude, and he epitomizes what a Raider coach would be. A boisterous, like loud. He's all about attitude, and he gets everybody riled up, and much like a Mike Tomlin.
He looks like he would cut a fan on the way back to the tunnel.
That's right.
That's what it looks like. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, he emphasized working for each other. Mm-hmm. Like he created that family atmosphere where the team just was bought all in right away, and you saw it on the football field of how hard they played.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, he said, Eric Bauer said, "Go Blue." Tom, here he is as a Huskies fan. Fuck your Blue. LOL. Jim came prepared.
I am prepared
because he knew that somebody was going to say something.
I was saving it for Mike Tackett, but he ain't here yet. So I'll play it again when Mike Tackett comes for my big Ohio State fans out there. I will tell you, Tom, that man,
after watching Washington in that game, horribly disappointed. Like in the not just like the game in itself, but like I was expecting this national championship game to be kind of like back and forth a little bit, to be like maybe Michigan or maybe Washington, whoever it was going to be, maybe they win by 10, maybe they win by a field goal. I thought it would be closer at the end. But Washington, I think Michael Penix Jr., I have to say it, as much as I like throughout the year was watching this kid and I'm like, wow, he could be one of the top quarterbacks. He mightily struggled in that national championship game, and not just because of pressure that Michigan was putting on him, but also he had wide open wide receivers that where there was blown coverage, and he couldn't even make a simple throw to them. He would overthrow it or something like that. So Michael Penix, because he didn't look that well, because the defense looked atrocious for Washington, they just never made any adjustments. So Michigan, they came in ready, and they knew what they were going to do. They were going to punch Washington in the face by running their run plays and make us stop. And Washington didn't have an answer and couldn't create an answer all game long. So Michigan, they did the business. They got the job done, and it is what it is. It was a bad championship to watch, but Michigan came ready and they handled business.
Yeah, and Tom Leiter says Penix showed he was human. Yeah,
I would say
it was tough. It was Michigan all running all the time again, and then defense.
But that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean,
and knowing that, see, my problem was if I'm a defensive coordinator for Washington, I will say this: Washington's secondary is actually a really good secondary. Watching them throughout the year, however, when you're playing a team like Michigan, shouldn't the game plan be like, hey, we have to do whatever we can to stop their run game. We have to either load the box or create some run blitzes or do stunts, like change the game up a little bit when you have to play in this. This is the game. This is it.
Yep.
You gotta do whatever you can to try to like disrupt Michigan's offense, and their running game is everything. If they were able to stymie that, they might have had a chance. But the fact that they just never made adjustments, it didn't even look like the game planned for the running attack that Michigan has. So very disappointed. Michael Penix in this showing, like I wouldn't just say he was human. I would say like he looked like he didn't belong in the top 5 of quarterbacks in that game. He looked pretty bad. So I have some big concerns now for Michael Penix going forward. Like, was that just one game that just ended up being bad for him? Or is that something to kind of look forward to when you're playing in the NFL and there's nothing but pressure every week?
Right.
Whether it be personal or business, there's always pressure. And you're going to be facing guys like Nick Bosa and all that. Like, you're going to have tenacious pass rushers coming after you that are faster, stronger, bigger. What are you going to do then? You know what I mean? So the pocket will collapse a lot faster. You got to get rid of the ball quicker. That's kind of what's concerning for me for him going forward.
Right. Yeah. And if you look at, I'm interested to see how it all plays out when the draft comes. You know, what kind of an impact will this game be for some of these, scouts looking at him? You know, will it change their minds a little bit? Say, hey, wait a minute, let's take another look at this guy.
I don't think one game is going to change their minds.
We've seen how one game, even the Senior Bowl, will change their minds for some people. Either move them up or have a different opinion about them.
Yeah, but usually one game isn't going to dictate like a
who
big
knows,
drop.
But maybe
or
it's got to
anything.
be. Is he even going to sit back and not even go to the combine? Still, is he going to do that? Afterwards. So I think it'll be interesting going forward before the draft with all that.
Because here's the thing: is they're advised. They're advised. If you're locked in, like everybody praises Caleb Williams, right? He already announced he's coming out into the draft. So Caleb Williams has been praised. He's been pushed up there as a top quarterback and everything. And with that being said, if his advisors and his agent feel like he's comfortably at that number one spot, like he's not going to lose ground to nobody, then they might advise him not to even do the combine. They might advise him maybe not even do the pro days. Mm-hmm. They could, because, hey, what's the worst that could happen? You're picked second. You know what I mean? Worst case scenario. Why put yourself out there? And if you happen to have a bad showing at the combine or your pro day, now that's where it gets a little misty and where you could maybe fall a few picks down. So I think for guys like Penix, now after having a bad national championship game, now you have to prove to everybody again. You got to go out at the combine. You got to compete. You got to show that you're not afraid to come back, face adversity, and do what you do best. You know, show everybody like, hey, that didn't rattle me. That bad game that I had in the national championship didn't rattle me. Mm-hmm. I can come back. I can go to the combine. I'm going to show all you guys I'm the guy that you should be picking.
All right, yeah, and I think Tom Leiter says, at least being Washington being in this game puts them on the map a little bit, noticed, and that'll help recruiting going forward. Eric Bauer says, I would stay away from Caleb Williams. I see bust written all over him. I think he has a serious attitude problem. So that's
been known for years about Caleb. It's not a secret. He does have a bad attitude problem. He doesn't get along with his college coaches. So there's already that information is already out there. I'm 100% sure that the NFL scouts and everybody already has or have had all that info already. So they know about those issues with coaching and what have you. But even more than that, his gameplay this whole year was atrocious. Mm-hmm. So I can't stand for the life of me how he's still rated the number one quarterback for a lot of scouts out there. Just don't get it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked about Nick Saban and Eric Bauer says first, I'd rather draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix.
We're getting a little too far into the draft right now. Really, hey, we are definitely going to dive into that real soon. Mm-hmm. But all I'll say about Bo Nix is be careful what you wish for, because Bo Nix was crowned as like the most accurate quarterback coming out of college. But there's a reason for that. The offense that he's in. It's all high percentage throws. None of it is very difficult. When he's asked to throw and make really tight windows, he struggled with it a little bit. So I think with that Oregon offense, it's very gimmicky. It's a lot of like swing passes to your running backs. It's a lot of, receiver screens. It's very high percentage throws, slants, and what have you. So hitches. That's where I kind of pull back a little bit on Bo Nix. Early on in the season, I was pro Bo Nix, and I'm like, wow, he really handles an offense well. But then after really kind of diagnosing Oregon's style of play and the type of throws that they ask him to do, don't really ask him to do too much. So more like a game manager.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. So Tom Leiter had brought it up for the fact that, it's interesting that now Nick Saban's moving on and now Pete Carroll, again, stepped away. This is the biggest news I think coming out right now is the fact that Pete Carroll now, after even the Seattle Seahawks not making the playoffs, he's out now, which it's kind of funny because I thought they were even playing decently well. I was kind of
they have a good team too.
I was kind of I thought they played better than what I thought they would. I mean, we all expected, I think, that their quarterback was going to take a step backwards again when you're having the best season that you have had your whole career, and not expected to do anything there either. But I thought they were even set for a rebuild. So the fact that I think the defense was able to play the way they did with who they had to as well, with some of the younger guys after trying to unload on the veterans. It seemed like they just refreshed their veterans, and then they just got a new batch of guys in here. So I thought that had a big part with what Pete Carroll had to do with this and keep these guys motivated and get them motivated and still think that they could win after even moving on from all these other bigger pieces and things like that. And the fact that even the power struggle between him and Russell Wilson, he had won the power struggle with Russell Wilson and they moved on to Russ. and moved on with him, and I thought they were just locked in. But he is older now, 72.
He's 72 years old, yep.
And stuff. So it kind of makes sense, and maybe they wanted to just go into a more youthful coach and still kind of keep him around just because what he had done for the organization. They have never won a Super Bowl until he was there, and he is the most winningest coach for the Seattle Seahawks as well.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. I think that plays a big part of it, too, is for the organization. I feel like the decision that came down was a major part of it was his age. Like 72 years old, how much longer is he going to coach for? Do we want to hold off any longer with the candidates that are available now? Are we super interested in some of the candidates that are available to us now? Do we pull the trigger now, go after the guys that we want? Because there's no telling what's going to be available 2-3 years down the road. Are they going to be good enough? Are they not going to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So because of the uncertainty in the near future and however long he could possibly coach for, I feel like they decided to pull the trigger now. But let's still keep Petey here. Let's But here's the weird part is if he does decide to stay in Seattle, whatever the capacity is, how awkward is that going to feel for whoever they hire to know that in the building somewhere, maybe even on the sideline, the original head coach, all the players know him as coach, everybody in the organization know him as coach, that he's still lingering around, that he's probably still going to be there, like high-fiving the players and all that,
Mm-hmm.
Very rah-rah guy. And I just think it's kind of like got to be an awkward feeling. It's almost like you're the manager for the store is overlooking your shoulder as an assistant manager. You know what I mean? Like, hey, make sure you do a good job, So I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I kind of wonder, whatever it is, whatever he has to do, hopefully it's not going to interfere too much. Hopefully there's not going to be that awkwardness of him being around. But, it is what it is. It's his time to go. The Seahawks have made that, distinction, and now it's looking forward. Who is the next coach for the Seattle Seahawks?
Right, and I mean, again, do you go with pedigree, or are you going for another younger up-and-coming guy?
No,
because what other spectrum are you going to go to?
I'll tell you right now, the most likely situation right now, most likely coach is Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's been brought up for other head coaching vacancies, but Dan Quinn was the D coordinator for the Legion of Doom in Seattle. It makes a lot of sense. He has a great relationship with Pete Carroll. He's got a great relationship with the organization, has coached there before. There's a lot of likes about that move, and the fans would definitely welcome him back, remembering those days on the defensive side. So I feel like
it would
Dan
be easier
Quinn
than, I guess, if you're talking about with...
I feel like Dan Quinn would be the most logical coach right now as we speak. Now, they could go a different way too. There's other candidates out there. You think of Mike McDonald from the Baltimore Ravens, another defensive-minded coach. He's the DC over there. He's done a tremendous job in Baltimore. That's also an opportunity where maybe he would come to Seattle. Or would they look for an offensive-minded coach? Think of a Brian Callahan in Cincinnati, the offensive coordinator there. And he's also done tremendous work with quarterbacks in the draft as he has his own kind of training school where he brings up college quarterbacks, preparing them for the draft. So Callahan also could be an interesting candidate on the offensive side, where they could bring him in and maybe kind of help boost this offense and get that side of the ball rolling, because we've already seen how the defense is very young right now. The defense has been playing extremely well. Obviously, things do change depending on what avenue you take, but those are just a few ideas right now.
Tom Leiter thinks that Jim Harbaugh is on his way to Seattle.
I don't think so at all.
He says Pete Carroll gets to collect his contract this way. If he resigned, he would lose it. So he's got 2 years left on it. So this way it works out for him. Yeah, I get everybody tries to connect dots. I mean, it'll be easier for Dan Quinn because, again, he used to be there, was the D coordinator for Pete Carroll, so they would get along probably and not be so much of a, hey, who's this guy again and things like that.
And we don't even know
and
what
Uncle
capacity Pete is going to be doing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, Tom Coughlin do this before with the New York Giants, but he had also, I think it was when he helped hire McAdoo as, his offensive coordinator. So basically, he was just the next guy in line. Will that happen? Will they hire from the inside the organization? Who knows? But the way he was talking, especially in his press conference, he was saying he was sad for the families of the coaches and things like that. So it seemed like they were all moving on, his regime that he had there. So what sort of advisement is he going to have moving forward with everybody? Is he going to be part of the draft or whatnot? We'll see. But like you said, I think a big part is got to be offense or somebody that can fix his offensive line. I mean, they've been trying to get guys in there to help it out, and Christopher Cross was a good ad that they had too.
Charles Cross and also Abraham Lucas. Both tackles were drafted in the same draft. Both actually played amazingly well for where they were drafted. I mean, obviously Cross was a first-round pick, but for Lucas to come in the same year and drafted a little bit later, and just end up being a starter as well. That was like a huge, a home run swing on that one.
And they have the weapons. So, I mean, for them to not get it going here for our offense, I think is key for them going forward if they go for an offensive coordinator or, again, somebody that they think is like a Jim Harbaugh that has got the pedigree and he can work with quarterbacks. Look what he did with Colin Kaepernick and things like that going forward for San Francisco. So, we'll see. We'll see moving forward who this person might be to take up the big shoes of Pete Carroll. Because again, he's been there for a while. He's their winningest coach. He had a lot of attitude on the sidelines, and he really embodied this team.
Another one to keep an eye out for is Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. His name has been probably one of the most spoken about names in terms of offensive play calling duties up for a head coaching gig. So if Seattle is geared more towards offense, that could also be a name that they could bring in and it could really help the Seattle team. All
right. Next up, we've got Mike Vrabel, too. The Vrabel is fired after 6 seasons with the Titans. Rumors, that we're hearing is a power struggle with ownership is part of the reason why he's not
It's
there
never
anymore.
A good thing.
So, again, because it was a surprise. We were hearing that he was going to be there. He's part of their future plans. And now he's all of a sudden ousted. It wasn't even part of the rumor mill that he was going to be gone. That's what's surprising about this whole thing is the fact that we thought he was locked in. You know what I mean? And it's not like they have been terrible. Every time when I thought they were going to take a step back a little bit here, they still were contending. And even though they had issues with Tannehill getting injured, but then Malik Willis not looking so good, but they got Levis in there. Seems like they had something. Like I thought they could maybe build something with this kid and go forward and just not even skip a beat. They played hard in that last game and they made an impact. And that showed you what they were doing, I think, for the team all in general. Right. And then also for, the coach, you know what I mean? So it seemed like they were going all in and they weren't going to lay down on this whole thing. And I think, again, just a few other pieces around it and they can get it going. But that's kind of been the problem, and I think that's why there is a power struggle, because you saw what happened when they traded on that draft night. When they traded away A.J. Brown, they panned to the war room, and Vrabel stood up and kind of just looked around, was kind of like, are you kidding me?
Vrabel
he wasn't even part of that.
No, he was. He was dead set against the whole deal.
He's like,
whole idea. He was dead set against it. That's why he was so distraught when it actually happened. He's like, they really pulled the trigger? I told them not to. Mm-hmm. Like that's really what it was. It's like, why would you trade away a commodity, a great player like that from our team that we're trying to build, and you just get rid of him like that? When I said as a head coach, I said, I don't think it's a good idea. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see the power struggle. But here's the problem: is when you have that up top, right? Mm-hmm. Usually, football decisions aren't always made up top, and they're not always the best decisions. So when you make these knee-jerk reactions like the GM got fired too. Like he's not there anymore either. Mm-hmm. So they just blamed everybody. And it's sad because Vrabel, you could say, okay, Titans fans out there, like you're like, oh, but we were 6-11 this year. We were crappy. We didn't have a good year. Well, there was a lot that led to that record. You lost Ryan Tannehill relatively early. Mm-hmm. You drafted a future quarterback in Will Levis, which when you draft a quarterback as a head coach, usually that gives you an extra couple of years at least to continue to build the team. And then that's your guy for the future. Ryan Tannehill goes down. Here, we're going to have to play Levis. We don't have a choice. But he showed glimpses of saying, wow, look at what this kid can do. He can run the ball well. He makes quick decisions. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can just, it's almost effortless how far this kid can throw the ball and get it to his receivers. And DeAndre Hopkins had a really big day his first start. And it was incredible to watch. Like, wow, this is the Tennessee Titans offense. They're actually airing this thing out with a rookie quarterback. Like, so now you take that small little bit of good play from a rookie and just think of what the possibilities could have been if everything stayed together. Because now this changes everything. As you move on from the head coach and Mike Vrabel, okay, fine. That's your decision. I don't think it was the right one, but we'll see how it works out. But now, whoever you bring in here, whoever it is, whatever new coach you decide to go with, and new GM, that's not their guy anymore. They didn't draft him. They have no ties to Will Levis at all. So if whatever coach comes in says, really wasn't a fan of Will Levis coming out of the draft, we'll try to work with him, but it's almost like they come in and they already have a preset determination of, well, he wasn't our guy, so we might move on from him. Even though he probably has what they're looking for in a quarterback. Maybe he will surprise them. But the fact that they've probably already decided, like, I'm not really huge on this kid. I don't think he's going to work out. We're going to draft another quarterback now. And now we're going to look to trade Levis. Like, that's the problem, is now you've disrupted anything that was going to be, that you were building for the future is now almost thrown out the window in a sense, because if a coach comes in and does not like Will Levis and has made up his mind, or an offensive coordinator, whoever, now it just disrupts all the chemistry that you've tried to build up to this point. And now they're going to tear down the roster because not everybody fits whoever's scheme. So now you need to pack on 3 years of rebuilding the brand that is the Titans into the new coach's foresight. So it's terrible for the Titans right now, because I thought that they were starting to figure things out. It looked like Will Levis could be the guy. Not saying that he won't be, but when you bring in a new regime now, none of these players that they drafted, so they don't have any ties to them. So they're for Vrabel, he had a 54-45 record all time for the Titans in 6 seasons. So he had above 500 record, and you fire the guy. So I don't think it's the right decision. I think they kind of hastily made this decision, and let's see what they can do in the offseason. There's going to be a lot of changes, obviously, in Tennessee.
Yep. Tom Leiter says Titans fired Munchak for making the playoffs and winning a game even. So, I mean, this is what happens sometimes. Yeah.
I tell you, ownership.
Titans are a mess upstairs. There's a lot of teams that are a mess upstairs. I mean, look at David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers. They're a mess all around. Like, so that's a vacancy there, but like, who's interviewing for that job? You know what I mean? After what they've been going through, I mean, how long was even what was it before even Frank Reich there? I mean, it just seems they've been cycling through. Matt Rule was there for a very short time, and then just Frank Reich, not even a full season. So I mean, and
Matt Rule was on the Panthers.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, for
Tepper, and so I'm saying another
and then
group
they had,
that's a mess.
Then they had the interim coach there, and then he was going to be up for a head coaching job, and they were like, nah.
No, but who's going to interview for that? When that ownership, it seems like a mess even right now. I mean, there's obviously people that are going to, because a head coaching job in the NFL is a head coaching job.
And think about it this way: that GM job is open. Like they're starting from scratch as well. So Dave Tepper is going to be looking for a high-profile GM and try to like bring him in, and then from that point on, it's going to be up to the GM really to find the new coach.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, again, who do you think is the best opportunity to fit over there for Carolina? I mean, they've gone two different ways. They've gone with a bright college coach.
They're going a lot of defensive coordinators, usually like defensive-minded guys. But with Dave Tepper, he's a new owner, a newish owner, I would say, where I'm not really 100% sure what he's thinking, but what I would think is having a rookie quarterback, you're going to have to go an offensive route of some sort. And because given Bryce Young's legs that he can run with the ball, his mobility and whatnot, maybe Todd Monken could be the head coach, the offensive coordinator of the Ravens, where he could come in and maybe help out this kid and utilize maybe a little bit of his running game and implement that into the offense and kind of mix it up that way, like they do in Baltimore, which could really help out Bryce Young. It might even make him a better quarterback, not because maybe in the NFL, in college he was phenomenal just dropping back and throwing. But now you're at a big stage. You're in the NFL, and we've seen him struggle mightily with decision-making, with holding onto the football, turning it over, whatnot. But maybe you need a guy like a Todd Monken who's worked with Lamar Jackson, who has success with mobile quarterbacks, utilizing that part of the game for a QB, to come to Carolina, be the HC, and implement that down there. That might actually work out better for the Panthers. So that's an option. Other than that, maybe Frank Smith out of for the Dolphins, the offensive coordinator for the Dolphins there under Mike McDaniels. Because of how creative Mike is, obviously Frank Smith has had to learn some things from him and saying, wow, that this actually could work. We've seen it on the football field. And then maybe bring Frank Smith to Carolina and implement him there too, because that way he can work with a young quarterback who's mobile and whatnot. Definitely more mobile than Tua, so maybe you have a little bit more flexibility with what you are able to accomplish there in Carolina. So that's one other offensive-minded coach too.
And I think even the key here first, though, I think with the Carolina has got to be GM. What team are you going to build? Because we've seen them in free agency not really do a whole lot. And when you grab like Adam Thielen as your typical number one and you trade it away, DJ Moore, and then there you go, and then there's your pick and everything too. I mean, so it's just a mess. You're the worst team, and Chicago has your pick. You know what I mean? So it's epic failure all around, and so it's got to start with that GM. Whoever they grab as a GM, it's got to be moving forward and get some weapons here.
Yeah, that could also be the reason why the GM got fired as well.
Yeah,
is because you drafted Bryce Young instead of C.J. Stroud when you had your pick. You went with Bryce Young.
You had your pick. You did.
You had your pick of quarterback, and you picked Bryce Young. You thought Bryce Young was better than C.J. Stroud. Yep. The most accurate quarterback in college. You thought Bryce Young was the guy. Okay. Yeah. Let's just say what it is, GMs, there's a few GMs out there, but I think like a lot of people have always wanted to try to get close to the Eagles GM, Howie Roseman. And why not? The guy's done a phenomenal job as a GM. Probably one of the best GMs of our time right now. Guy just gets everything done. He hasn't made any real big mistakes, and is a tremendous decision maker and talent evaluator. Why not kind of pick a little bit from there? Like Eagles assistant GM, Alec Hallaby. He's a guy where obviously he's been under Roseman for quite some time. He's definitely learned a little bit of the tricks of the trade there. Why not give him a shot? And see what he could do for Carolina and try to kind of revamp them.
All right, we've got Tom Leiter in the house again. What does he say now?
He said, before I tune out, I need to know who lost the pick'ems and has to drink. Well, apparently it hasn't been decided yet.
Hasn't been decided yet. Currently, I'm leading, but it hasn't been decided yet.
We are picking through the playoffs, I guess.
Yes. So stay tuned then. I know you're going to tune out.
We're trying to keep you hang on the edge of your chair
until the end. We go right to the end. That's how we finish. And then Tom Leiter says, not a lot of great quarterbacks came out of Ohio State, to be honest. No, they haven't. Haven't been great. This is a change of pace. You know what
No,
I mean?
but here's the thing: is like that's a stigma, right? So
Yeah.
yes, you're
No, I
right.
hear you.
It hasn't, but the exceptions are like Fields is better than any past Ohio State quarterback you can think of, and then after Fields was C.J. Stroud, and C.J. Stroud was even better than Fields. So when you're looking at just pure talent, it just jumped off the page.
Let's put it this way: Tom Brady didn't even start, but he played for Michigan.
Right.
Right, and everybody else in Michigan, they haven't been known for quarterbacks. I mean, look at McCarthy now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Brady's the asterisk, I guess, but he didn't even really start.
No, he didn't. He played like 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, so that breaks the stigma there, you know, in a sense. You know,
I mean,
because,
that's just
again,
dumb luck, to be honest.
Well, I'm just saying, though. I'm just saying the fact that he came from Michigan, not a lot of Michigan quarterbacks are great in the NFL. You see Chad Henne, just a backup. Denard Robinson, turned into a running back. You know what I'm saying? So not real pedigree here from Michigan becoming a NFL quarterback.
Right, but that comes down.
Starter.
Yeah, that comes down to scouting, though. Like, how good is your scouts? And obviously, people that have drafted certain quarterbacks from certain universities that usually don't pan out, they're just not doing all their homework. Like, to me, it jumped off the page when Stroud came out. I'm like, there's hands down the best quarterback coming out. I had no question. And everybody kept pointing Bryce Young. They're like, no, this kid's going to be
Well, that's the thing they could have learned,
amazing.
too. I mean, because how many great quarterbacks coming out of Alabama, though, too, and things like that, too, moving forward. I mean, Tua and things, So you see a bunch of different quarterbacks.
A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron, you know what I mean? Yeah, they haven't done great in the NFL either. And they're always known as a run first and then defense as well. How many great defensive linemen and things like that coming out of Alabama,
A lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Running backs have been fairly decent, but not like spectacular. I mean, Ingram had
pretty
his
good.
times, but pretty good.
Really good, actually.
And then now Derrick Henry, look at him, though. You know what I mean? So he's amazing. So running backs, defense, but quarterbacks, not the same thing either. You know what I mean?
I think that the whole stigma thing, like it used to be Penn State used to be linebacker U. Used to be considered linebacker U. I think it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what school. As long as you do your due diligence and you scout and you make the right decisions on what player is best, don't matter what school he comes from. And yeah, you could line up all the stats you want about history for this school and that school, but it really doesn't matter. It matters about getting the homework done the right way, and whoever is the better scout is going to find those players.
Right.
It's that simple.
It's fair for an opinion, but I don't think scouts look that way, or NFL GMs.
Oh, not at all.
No.
I mean, that's why
they evaluate
some
the guys.
players they happen to fall in love with, and I think that's dangerous. It's like when you have you've already made a decision on a player, like leading up to the draft, maybe 2 months, 3 months before the draft is even here, and you're like, this guy's my guy. Hands down. I'm not even looking at anybody else in this position. That's the guy I want. But meanwhile, you always have late bloomers that come into the draft, maybe even late guys that you don't consider that pop out of nowhere in the 4th round. You're like, I should have took that guy. He turned out to be a starter, and that's where it is what it is. So there's a human element to the draft and scouting as well, where you kind of sometimes it's dangerous to kind of fall in love with a player that you're like, no doubt about it, this is my guy, or these are my guys, and you kind of not pay as much attention to other players that you should.
All right, so I mean, we talked about a few of the new firings and changes,
Right.
with some of these organizations right now. Still, the word is, still the jury's out on, Bill Belichick and the Patriots. So there's a lot of rumors going around all about that
That's
whole
'cause
thing.
nobody has
especially
information.
Especially now that Vrabel's done, a lot of people trying to connect dots.
Well,
They think that Vrabel might just go back to the Patriots, coach the Patriots. He did beat Bill Belichick out-coached Belichick in the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's on that
Yes.
same coaching
Yes.
tree, and he has had success. Now, how much of the power will he have even there with in New England with Robert Kraft? Robert Kraft be like, hey, I love you, Mike, too. I remember back when we won a Super Bowl together. Let's do this, and let's go back to those days. Maybe he might. And that might be the best guy to follow Bill Belichick, because you're looking at a Hall of Fame coach in Belichick that did something that no one has ever really done, with that dynasty that they had, and follow in his shoes and expect to build this thing back up to a winning organization. That's a lot of stuff. But if it's a Mike Vrabel who's been there, has shown that he can win too as well, And that might be a nice, easy fit because he's a familiar face as well and already a fan favorite.
This is a relationship business. It's a relationship business. So, yes, you're going to connect the dots, just like Dan Quinn possibly going to Seattle. It makes all too much sense. Guys that have been there before, guys that know the building, that know everything about the organization. It makes all the sense in the world. So, like, for Vrabel to return, they are even talking about Josh McDaniels returning to New England. So how about getting the old gang back? Here's my thing is Bill Belichick, if he stays, I see it one of two ways. Belichick decides, or Robert Kraft and Belichick come to terms, he's going to stay. But Belichick is going to relinquish GM power. And now they're going to go hire a new GM. In that scenario, Vrabel comes back as D coordinator. Josh McDaniels comes back as offensive coordinator. And now you're starting to see what was once a very weak coaching staff is now being bolstered with really good coaching again. Or we go to Bill exiting. Maybe he retires. Maybe they just decide to break up and Bill wants to. I just don't understand why Bill would want to keep coaching if he's not a Patriot.
Right.
Because,
I say
because now, he's up there in age 2. And at the same time, I think he's about 70 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong, know-it-alls. But he's up there, too, in age. Now, why would you want to, like, uproot you and your wife, and now you're going to move to wherever you got to move to, a new city, and how long do you intend on coaching? Like, do you intend on coaching with a team that is close, but you still need to build that team up a little bit?
71 years old.
Yes, so it's a lot. That's a whole lot of, what if, and do you really want to do all that? Or do you just decide to retire? Whatever it is. So if New England parts ways with him, he can retire, he can do whatever. But if in that scenario, then I go with Mike Vrabel to come in, be the head coach of the New England Patriots, and I still believe that Josh McDaniels would come back as well and be the OC for him. Mm-hmm. I think that scenario could play out as well. So one of those two things that happen, and then as far as if Bill does exit, I definitely could see him retire then at that point. Because it doesn't really make much sense to me if I'm a 71-year-old coach and maybe Kraft does the same thing that Seattle did. Maybe he's like, hey, but I still want you to be involved. I want you to be an assistant GM / advisor. You know what I mean? Something like that. That could be possible too. So there's a lot of different scenarios for New England where it could work out. And I don't think they're going to be basically grasping at straws on who the next head coach is. I feel like these are the most logical things that could happen for New England that we've discussed. But other than those scenarios, if they decide to go a different direction that we're not thinking about, that would just blow my mind. Because now you're going to have to change way too much. Because now whenever you bring in a fresh mind from outside coming into the building, that means all your assistants getting fired. He's going to hire his whole new staff, and it's going to change everything. Everything that you've known about New England, that offense is gone. The defense is going to change. Like, everything's going to change. The roster is going to be changed. So it might be too much and too big of a deal to go through all that rather than doing the couple scenarios that we just talked about.
Tom Leiter says Bailey Zapper or Zappy? Question mark. I mean, because what are you saying here? Is he going to be around still or not? Is he the guy? Like, I think when they go forward and whoever the head coach might be, they definitely have to look
They're
at
going to draft a quarterback.
They have to get one of their guys and maybe still evaluate some of these guys. I think we've seen Zappy. I think he is what he is. I think we all expected to be what he is. I think there's still something.
He's a backup
with Mac Jones. For some reason, he got rattled too much this year. I don't know. It was just doing dumb throws. You don't just change overnight like that.
No, but it's already written. Like, we already know what New England's doing. It's not a secret. They're going to draft a quarterback. They have the 3rd overall pick. They're going to take the best available quarterback for that team, regardless of who the head coach is, and they're going to build with that. What they're going to do is they're going to have the rookie quarterback compete with whoever's there, because we don't even know if the quarterbacks like Bailey Zape and that they're in the plans. They could move on from them if they wanted to. There's been all that kind of crazy talk about it all season long, but I think they would keep them in there just for competition, just because they've been there, they know the team. That's the one avenue where I feel like they're going to draft a quarterback and then let the best man win in the offseason. Earn the job, whether it be the rookie outplays Mac Jones or Mac Jones outplays the rookie. May the best man win.
All right. Yeah. Who else got fired? It was Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera got fired too as well.
There's a lot of things.
Arthur Smith too, which we already saw.
Arthur Smith, we've been pounding the table to fire that guy. There was reports about him not possibly being safe, and I was like, "What? No way!" But finally, they pulled the trigger, and Atlanta fans can rejoice because I know Falcon fans out there were super annoyed by this guy, and rightfully so. Guy called terrible offensive plays. They just couldn't score points. Even upgrading the defense, and the offense was still lacking, for lack of a better word. So Arthur Smith deserved to be fired. The head coach search there is interesting because whoever takes the job, you're inheriting quite a few studs already there. Like especially on offense, you're inheriting a decent defense that you could still kind of upgrade a little bit, but also on offense, it's like clay. You can mold it to whatever you want. You got guys like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. You got a nice nucleus there of weaponry. Now what are you missing? A quarterback. Go get a quarterback. Draft a quarterback. Trade up if you have to get the guy that you want. Make a move and shore up any weaknesses that are necessary. Linebacking core, offensive line. Offensive line is pretty solid, but it could be upgraded for sure. D-line. I know D-line for the longest time, for last 10 years, Atlanta's been searching for a pass rusher. Still haven't found one. So that's another avenue they could go. So whoever does, in fact, take this job, they have some things to work with. Where we thought that early on in the year, like maybe Atlanta, they were competing against teams early on. We're like, whoa, wait a second. They might have something. The defense is pretty solid. If the offense, if Desmond Ridder can get it together, we might have a competitive team, and they're going to be right in the thick of things later on in the season. But obviously things got derailed. Ridder started turning the ball over, not doing a good job and making good decisions. So kind of went off the rails a little bit. But now, whoever does take this job, I feel like it's a really good job to take because there's a lot to work with there, and you can continue to build this team.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't get any worse with Arthur Smith and the way it was. You talk about some of these coaches that go from,
How about Matt Eberflus? How about him keeping his job?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's just weird. I think that team's in a weird spot because you hear talks about trading, Justin Fields and stuff like that. Where are they going to get for him? And blah blah. They're just kind of, getting better as they go. They're building. So do they want to build with Eberflus? Is that the idea? Then why are you trying to trade away your quarterback right now? You're just absolutely sold that he's not the guy.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to.
I mean, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, I think they're throwing it out there to see if there's anything out there and see if there was.
You're not going to get a first round pick for the guy. You might be lucky to get a second rounder. I could see a third.
You would be absolutely lucky to get a second.
I could see a third. I could see a team giving up a third round pick for him if you wanted to trade him. But is that really what you want to do?
Great reward.
Is that what you want to do? You want to give up a quarterback that is capable of starting for just a third round pick to some other team, and who knows, maybe he has a better career with another team. But here and now, we all know how hard it is to find that franchise quarterback. There's no guarantee you're going to draft the right quarterback this year. Because if they do decide, they could still keep Fields and still draft a quarterback. Why not? You have a luxury. Yeah, you're paying Fields, but now even if you draft number 1 overall and you take the quarterback that you want, you're not paying him nothing. You're not paying him hardly anything for even to be a backup. Who cares? But you could groom him to take over Fields' job then. Maybe that's the smarter play. Maybe don't move on from Fields. Keep him in there, draft a rookie, compete in the offseason, and maybe Fields beats him anyway. But now you have waiting in the wings, you have a franchise quarterback that you really like. So when it is time for Fields to leave, maybe the following year, boom, insert your new quarterback. Maybe that's the best idea. Maybe not to move on from Fields and just try to draft a rookie and throw him to the Wolves and say, hey, you got to start. You got to play. Mm-hmm. We drafted you high. You got to go. Mm-hmm. So I think Chicago is still having discussions and determining what they exactly want to do. But I think the smartest thing would be not to move on from Fields just yet. Hold on to him. Because we saw him start to get chemistry with guys like DJ Moore, and it seemed to open up some things. And tight end, it went blank there for the tight end there. Big guy.
Cole Kmet?
Yeah, Cole Kmet. Mm-hmm. He started to get more involved in the offense as well. So, like, you started to see things that you're like, okay, wow, we got something brewing here. Maybe you continue that. Don't break that up just yet. Keep it going. You can still take the quarterback if you want, or you could take one of the best wide receivers to come out in the last 10 years in Marvin Harrison Jr. Give him another weapon to throw to. Now you got DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr., draft a running back, maybe in the second or third round to upgrade the back end, get better offensive linemen too while you're at it. Like, you could really kind of form and shape this offense this offseason. This upcoming offseason is a big decision year for Chicago. You want to be a player or not in the league. Well, now you need to make the right decisions and become a big boy. Mm-hmm. In the division, in that nasty division. You know what I mean? You got the Vikings, they always come to play. Green Bay Packers, we've seen them getting better down the stretch. They're going to come with it next season. They're going to get better. So you got to get better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can't get any worse, I guess, if you're the Bears. All right. But yeah, so I mean, it's
Tom Leiter, real quick. Tom Leiter goes, I've derailed the show enough tonight. Good job, guys. Go Hawks. Appreciate you.
Hawks. And
appreciate
looking
you,
for
Tom.
your next head coach and GM. Yeah, we'll see how it happens, draft time. But yeah, the Falcons, again, we hear that they're, interested in Bill Belichick. Like, that's a big surprise. Like, who wouldn't be at this point? But
every team that has a vacancy would be interested.
And I think that's why he's taken his time in the offseason here to really just contemplate his life where he is. He doesn't need anything else. He doesn't need to keep going. Doesn't need to coach still. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to leave us waiting too long, though, to let us know. But I think if that's the case, if that's what they're even thinking about, that I think Vrabel's going to be on their radar then too. Because if they're thinking Patriot way, again, tough defense,
maybe,
and
but
get
if
it going,
right,
the pedigree that he's had so far, what he's been able to do, they might just go Vrabel all day.
That's a hire where if anybody does jump the gun earlier than the Patriots do, and obviously if it's going to New England to be a D coordinator or going to wherever else to be a head coach, he's going to pick the head coach.
Yes.
Gig. So,
yes.
If Atlanta was to offer that to Vrabel, I don't think anybody would be upset at that in Atlanta.
Yep.
I think they would definitely be like, okay, cool, we got a real coach because he's already proven. Mm-hmm. We've seen the track record. He's a winning coach. He's proven. He's no BS. Like, he's going to get your team on point. So, I feel like that would just be an easy decision for any team that is looking for a new head coach at this point.
Yep. And then Washington, I think, with their opening that they have here for the Ron Rivera, again, obvious choice for me is got to be Bieniemy. I always say, get your first interview. First, you knock out a few different stones here at once here, but try internally. But who knows? Maybe they do go for somebody else, or they go for the big splash and trying to get Harbaugh. Or
they will not get Harbaugh. I'll tell you that right now. There's teams that will have no chance on getting Jim Harbaugh. He would probably stay in college if it meant. There's two teams in the NFL that I think have legitimate shots at getting Jim Harbaugh. Anybody else outside of that, I don't think would even come close. I don't think he would be even remotely interested. Washington Commanders is a very weird job to take. And I say this because with a brand new ownership group, that have made football decisions, mind you, by getting rid of guys like Chase Young in the middle of the season before the trade deadline, getting rid of Montez Sweat, both young pass rushing studs that have. Chase Young's had more injury issues than Montez Sweat, but they're both productive when they're healthy. They're both really good players. And for the new ownership to come in day one of the job or week one of the job and just say, hey, you know what? We don't feel like paying those guys in the future. Let's get rid of them. Wait, what? You want to get rid of who? Oh, okay. Why? You just now you take your defense. You had 2 really good pass rushers. Now they're gone.
Yeah.
Now you have to find a replacement. Now they have one dude that I saw play where he was kind of up and coming. I could see maybe he earns that starting role, but that's just one.
Yeah.
But if you have an owner making football decisions, what's that mean for any coaches coming in? Now, is that going to happen down the road where, like, if Eric Bieniemy gets this job, if he gets interviewed for the Washington job, which we expect him to do, we expect ownership to interview him. If that happens and he takes it, and a year into running this team and doing what he has to do as a head coach, all of a sudden they come to him like, hey, Eric, yeah, we're gonna get rid of your quarterback. We don't like what we see from him on the football field. Wait, what? You're gonna get rid of him now? Like, who am I supposed to start? Oh, just start Jacoby Brissett. We still have him on the roster, right? Fucking what? Like, you're not going to win games if you have an owner that's going to be making these kind of crazy football decisions. And I, not saying that this would happen, but you got to be weary about that if you're going to take this job. Is if they were willing to do that in mid-season this year, after they purchased the team, what's stopping them from doing it anytime in the near future? So Eric Bieniemy, whoever takes this job, and if we're not even thinking about that part of it, it's you're taking this team that you have now. This team has nice pieces on both sides of the ball, but they definitely need to rebuild more of a structure on the back end for the secondary for Washington. Their linebacking core needs to be upgraded tremendously. And then offensively, their offensive line is putrid. We talked about it all season long. Yeah. Like, it goes without saying. And you got to find a quarterback, because if Sam Howell is not your guy and you're not confident in that, you got to find another that's a big if you get that guy. So there's a lot that goes along with that job. So Eric Bieniemy, I feel like, would be the perfect logical reason that you would hire him. He's already there, knows the players, runs the offense. Don't need to do too much. Allow him to bring in a new staff, and let's see what you guys can do going forward. So
yeah. I mean, obviously they're.
What do you think about the Giants? Moving on from Wink Martindale and that whole kind of mutual parting ways.
I don't know.
Do you like it or dislike Wink leaving?
I'm in the middle. We had one season that he was blitzing a lot and looked decent. This year was a little off, but then towards the second half was the only part of our team. Defense did anything. They were the only ones that did anything.
They were amazing.
And the fact that, I guess, if you want to look at it in brass tacks, Mike Kafka is still there for some reason.
Apparently he's staying.
Wink Martindale resigns.
Apparently Kafka's staying.
Yeah.
I heard that
which I think is bull
Brian
crap.
Daboll said, like, oh, and we expect Kafka to return. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, did anybody watch the play calls?
Season. Like, yeah. Oh, I know.
But for Wink Martindale,
I
one
don't
of the
like
better.
it. I guess if you put it down to it, there was the only part. But what do they do now moving forward? I mean, what's going to be the big difference here? I mean, who are they going to get?
You got to find someone else. That's simple. You have to go out there and you find either a younger up and coming coordinator that maybe has what it takes.
Brandon Staley. Maybe he's
probably
go back, crawling back to defensive coordinator because you can't head coach.
Yeah,
I would take that. Yeah, then he's not the one that's going to call on fourth down. He's going to be probably whispering to Dable, "Go for it on fourth down."
In the mics.
And Dable will
do
be like,
it.
Yeah, it. Let's go. I believe in you guys. Let's go.
That's right.
So that's right. Which he's done before, but I would see maybe Brandon Staley. I would accept that because I think he was decent. Just as a D coordinator by himself.
Right. Right.
But as far as just that being the only upside of our team,
What do you think,
leaving, I guess that is disappointing.
I guess there's a name that kind of is going under the radar, but he's a good D coordinator. Is Jack Del Rio? Mm-hmm. What do you think about him?
He's already served his time. He's older. He's been in and out. It's just
He's not that old.
Yeah, no, but still, he's been a head coach. He's been a D coordinator. He's been a head coach, D coordinator. You can only rehash it so many times.
But he's a good D coordinator.
Mike Nolan was a good D coordinator, and he just outlived his time. You know what I mean?
He stopped coaching.
Well, no, he was coaching with the Cowboys, and then they got rid of him.
Right.
And then that's when they got Dan Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the difference. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, Jack Del Rio, yeah, he's okay, but I'd rather just go something else at this point. Yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
So
I tried to help you out. I don't know.
I don't know. I just don't. I don't agree. But that reminds me of one aspect though about some of the coaching game and stuff like that, because I think there was even a meme about Tom Landry and how he used to dress and stuff like that compared to now your Mike McDaniels, you know, with the rolled up sweatpants and everything and stuff like that. And they're like, what do you think about the times? Because Del Rio is a big guy about that, dressing up as a head coach and showing, you know, like you're showing up for your job and, you know, representing yourself as, you know, this leader, you know, so you dressed the part to these guys wearing sweatpants and, you know, hoodies and stuff like that. And it's like, look at Bill Belichick at the last game. Was that even him, or was that Kenny or somebody else just pretending to be Belichick, but it wasn't really him underneath that hood and underneath that coat? Because you could maybe see this part of his whole face because he was so cold in that game. He was just like, here, all right, there goes Belichick leaving maybe for the last time as a Patriots coach. And he's just like, big puffy coat. Like, was it him though?
Hold up.
I mean, the way they played, was it him?
It was him, but like, I mean, how can you?
It's kind of funny though.
How can you, as media, say, "Oh, that's the last time he's going to be a Patriot coach"? You don't even know what's happening. You have no idea. Why do you think there's so many different type of reports coming out of New England? Oh, he's definitely gone. They're going to part ways. They're going to meet to have two meetings, and then they'll make a decision. Nobody knows what's happening. Everybody's just speculating. It's like, stop the speculation, because you're just making no sense at all because you have no information. What is happening? Mm-hmm. Let's wait and see. It's going to be announced, and then you guys can report it and go nuts. Mm-hmm. Well, let's just wait and see what happens. How about the coordinators that were getting fired this past week? You know, you saw like, was it the Bears fired their offensive coordinator? You know, the Jaguars fired their D coordinator. Yeah. Why? My thing is, like, for the Jaguars, why are you firing your D coordinator? He was actually doing a pretty good job with that defense. Like, the offense, when Trevor Lawrence went down, obviously the Jaguars kind of slipped. They fell off the rails a little bit. They didn't have their starting quarterback. They couldn't score points. So you're blaming the D coordinator for not making the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Like, come on. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's just like a cheap shot.
Yep.
For the Chargers, you know, now that they moved on from Brandon Staley, this is one of two teams that I think that Jim Harbaugh could go. There was reports as of last year where they were interested in Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh was also interested in taking the job last year, but it wasn't available. They decided to stick with Staley another year, and that never happened. He stayed in Michigan. All the rumors kind of went away, and now they're back again, where they said there's very strong ties from Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers, because the Chargers organization is saying, we got an open checkbook. We'll pay you whatever it costs to get you here. Mm-hmm. That is one job where you already have an established quarterback. Mm-hmm. You already have a ton of talent. Mm-hmm. We've said it over and over and over. Jim Harbaugh goes there. But now, if Harbaugh does, in fact, go there, let's just say he just decides to go to the Chargers, he's a new head coach. Mm-hmm. That offense completely changes.
Yeah.
Because watch Michigan. That's how he runs his offenses. He runs the crap out of the football. So you're going to get an improved offensive line wherever there's a weakness. You're going to get more running backs. You're not going to have a major need for receivers because you're going to run the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. He's going to utilize tight ends a lot, you know, and I don't know how much of college football has changed Harbaugh from the days when Harbaugh was in the NFL. Like when Harbaugh was first a coach in the NFL for the 49ers, had tremendous success. He did run the ball a lot, but I feel like his offense was a little bit different now versus college, where it was predominantly running, and if they needed to, they could throw it to the tight end. They could throw it to an out route to the receiver. Stupid things just to move the chains.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to stick with them? The college format of football is going to. I wonder if that is ingrained in him if he comes to the Chargers, and that's the offense, the exact offense he's going to replicate in the NFL. I think that might be a bad thing. I think if he was to go back to his Niner days, that he could be more successful again. So that it's a very what if scenario with Jim coming back to the NFL. Like, is he so ingrained with what he's been doing in college that he's going to bring the same offense to the NFL?
Well, the thing is, too, I think you got to look at personnel. I mean, look at the personnel that he has, and he's the ability to even run. What do you have, with the Chargers here as far as even offensive line? Or
got good offensive line.
Your running back. Running back Austin Eckler, I mean, he came back because
he's
he finally
free
settled,
agent.
but he's going to be gone. So what are you going to do? Now we see with Derrick Henry, saying goodbye. Do they go and grab Derrick Henry? You're talking about opening up the checkbook. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden you bring in Jim Harbaugh. You got Derrick Henry as your running back, and then you've got Justin, Herbert there, and your weapons still. Then you just got to tidy up the defense, get a good defensive coordinator, and figure something out there. And I think it'll be balanced because then you don't have to say, well, we have to run the ball, just to be safe, and just we need a guy to manage. We think that Justin Herbert can be more than a game manager, especially if you even have weapons on the opposite end. I think it could work well.
Right, but that's not Jim.
Justin Herbert is not like what he did with Colin Kaepernick. He's not running a pistol, so he's not doing that. And so you're just going to run the ball all the time and say run heavy? I don't think so when you've got Justin Herbert there.
But that's the thing.
I think you're going to be more balanced.
With Jim Harbaugh, he does run a lot. He runs a lot. That's his offense. Like, he doesn't deviate from that. It's going back to the Niner days.
Which I don't think would be a problem.
It was a little bit different, but it will be.
I don't think so.
When teams figure it out, they will stop the run. I'm telling you right now.
Well, if they've got the weapons still and Justin Herbert, I think they could still outscore and get out of it, though.
Right, but it's going to be a whole different style of offense than what they've been doing. They've been doing it like kind of like
definitely going to be a different
thing where
offense than what they've been doing.
It's going to be predominantly running the football and chewing the clock.
I think they should have been doing that this year. I think they should have been running the football more this year and not relying on the pass, especially with the way Justin Herbert was injured too most of the year too.
That's
and
the thing,
still playing injured.
That's the thing is they struggled with that, with running the football.
That's what they had to do though, and to get better at it, because that was your strong suit at least at that point. You know what I mean? Austin Eckler was your whole nucleus of your whole team. Basically the last season before this one, and he didn't do a whole lot this year.
Well, I mean, for that Chargers offense, like you had Keenan Allen, who was the go-to guy. They definitely heavily utilized him in the passing game, and Eckler is a big part of that offense. But I feel like this year more than any, they didn't really utilize him in the passing game as much, and I feel like that's kind of where they fell back. And obviously, they had a different offensive coordinator too. Kellen Moore was different, so it's going to be a little bit of a different play calls, but. With Jim coming to the Chargers, or any team for that matter, you're going to see a guy that he loves to run the football and he loves to beat up other teams that way, much like Baltimore does. Mm-hmm. And you have Herbert in your back pocket, which is nice, but it's not. Herbert no longer will be throwing for 4,000 passing yards every year. It's going to be like 2,500 to 3,000. It's not going to be really that that kind of an offense. So. I wonder about if it might affect his coaching style too much when he comes back to the NFL. You can talk about upgrading an offensive line. You can talk about that. Yeah. But that's the thing is like what was successful for him years ago may not work in today's NFL.
We shall see. We shall see. We've seen some teams do that, but that's the thing I'm saying is like when you had a team like, say, the Titans, where all they really could do was run, where I think this team, has better weapons that they could do better, that if they didn't run, they could score 2 with the pass, and still keep up. I don't think they're strapped to the running back. You know what I mean? As that's like their weapon. You know, like the Giants. Their weapon is Saquon Barkley. They are strapped to Saquon Barkley. If they cannot run with Saquon, then they suck. They can't do anything on the passing game.
Well, that's an issue for offense. Like the plays that they've called, and obviously because they lost Daniel Jones and whatnot, and they kind of went through a quarterback carousel or whatever because of injury, it's kind of derailed what they were trying to do. They tried to upgrade the receiving core. They tried to upgrade offensive line, but it looks like they've missed on a couple of draft picks. So that might hinder them in that aspect. But Daniel Jones, they're going to bring him back. He's their guy. They've made that decision going forward, and they have to be able to create offensive plays that are going to help Daniel Jones get rid of the football quickly. Make high percentage throws. Mix it up with Saquon Barkley, because that's what's made the Giants very difficult to stop on offense when they utilize the fact that everyone's so worried about Saquon. But if you can complete a few slants, a few hitches, a few crossing patterns, like drag routes, like even just dumping it off to Saquon in the backfield and watching him run after the catch, like where is that offense that we saw very limitedly early on in Daniel Jones's career? That's what they need to get back to. So I feel you, bro, about Kafka. I completely agree. He shouldn't be there. They should definitely look for a new OC, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I don't know what that means for the following season, if things will change with Dayball maybe being a little bit more involved in the game plans than normal. Maybe he's going to dictate to him like Andy Reid does to any other one of his offensive coordinators. Mm-hmm. Like, no, you pick out of these plays. That's it. You know what I mean? So we'll have to wait and see on that front. But one other team that Harbaugh could possibly go to is the Raiders. Has deep roots with the Raiders, has had a long history with the Davis family. The family ties are there. Started his career as a quarterbacks coach for the Raiders. So he has a lot of ties with the organization. Has always dreamt of possibly coming back in a coaching aspect to wear the silver and black again. So that is one other team that is the only two teams that I think is Chargers and Raiders that are going to kind of be bidding on Jim Harbaugh. Now, how much interest is from the Raiders? I'm not really sure, because Mark Davis, you got to remember, is still paying Josh McDaniels his money. Mm-hmm. Don't think that's a factor as far as if he really wants Jim Harbaugh, but it's interesting to note that he is still paying the tab on former coaches. So for the Raiders, they have a tough decision as well. Like, who do you want to go with? Do you want to try to play ball with the Chargers and try to get into a bidding war for Jim Harbaugh? Or should you just do what seems to be staring you in the face, that Antonio Pierce has done a remarkable job as a leader and a head coach? Give him a shot. Give him, even if you have to give him like a short-term deal, just to see how it works out, 2 to 3 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that might be the most logical decision, but Mark Davis is anything but logical. Yes, so he might go for the whole enchilada and try to bring in a big name again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So who knows? We'll keep following that throughout the offseason, but that's not even here yet. So it is playoff time, Joe.
That's right.
Yeah, so, I mean, the teams are all set. We finally got the playoff tree here. So let's go take a look at it here. Again, this last weekend was pretty crazy. Some of the teams sneaking in there that we didn't expect. And some of the other teams that were higher seeds to let these other teams in. Look at the Steelers who were able to sneak in there. That was a surprise to me that Baltimore was just happy enough to let them coast through. And look at the Eagles. The funny thing about the Eagles is they weren't even resting guys, and they weren't even trying to
because they were playing.
Because they still had to play for something.
Yeah, the
and
division.
They brought nothing again and got beat up so much to the fact that they started to hurt their starters. Yeah. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, bang.
Yep.
And then they just got embarrassed by the Giants. I mean, again, I'm just blown away. I'm like, are you serious right now?
Remember we were talking about that game?
Blown the way it goes, man.
Remember we were talking about the game? We're like, well, who knows? The Giants, it's the last week of the season. They could play spoiler. They could prevent them from winning the division. Like, this could happen. We've seen
most
it.
likely not.
We've seen it happen before, but it wasn't likely.
Yeah.
With the way the Giants have been playing on offense, but it could happen. And not only did it happen, Jim, they destroyed them.
They destroyed
it wasn't
them.
even
Let
a
them get
game.
A little closer, but yep.
That was garbage time when they scored points.
Yeah. But I mean, they didn't even need to give them garbage time, though. That's the thing is that's
every
the way
team does.
This team is they just keep doing it, and it was embarrassing though too for the Giants, because you're like, all right, we're going to do a last hurrah game for Sterling Shepard. It's like they still themselves weren't planning on winning. They're like, screw it. We're not going to win this game, so let's just try and get Shep some yardage and get him to top 5 overall for a Giant in receptions. And let's try and get him a touchdown, too. So even at the end of the game, they're just forcing it. And the other team, the Eagles still knew it. And they're like, what the hell? So that's why they're getting stops. And it allowed the Eagles to get a little closer. But, again, with their backups, and again, at that point, too, just, not good enough to get it done. They just licked their wounds and said, screw it. We'll just go on to next week and, see if we can turn it around. And there's a lot of questions here with Philadelphia. But the biggest thing this whole season is the defense. Defense is terrible, and I'm surprised. Well, I guess they're not going to fire them mid-playoffs, but if they get knocked out in this first week, again, I swear heads are going to roll, and a defensive coordinator is probably fired here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Something's going to change. They're going to shake it up because you coming off losing a Super Bowl, but most likely you were in that right to that last play where most are even saying it was decided by the referees in that last Super Bowl. And you start off hot. Like you're not even playing your best and you're expected to turn that switch and turn it on and you just don't. And in fact, you get worse. That doesn't show much. And again, and yes, some of their offense was bad and not getting it going. But it was mainly defense. Because teams were just scoring nonstop on them, just bang, 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 bang. And then this offense, with it being sluggish and not being a little bit like it was last year, wasn't enough. They could not score back because teams are just pounding on their defense, and they're just like, oh, how are we going to respond? We just can't do it. And that's where they ended up. But to lose the last 5, I think, in a row, I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but I wouldn't completely put it on the defense because you got to remember, too, is – they've also lost a few big key players from last year's team on defense.
Yes.
Yes,
they have.
And that's a big contributor because now you're trying to fill it with younger guys that you're hoping that can speed up and catch up with the NFL game and play at as just a higher level or close to it from their predecessors. And it's not realistic. And then you couple that also with the fact that their offensive prowess that once was is no longer there this year. Like, they were struggling to score points every single week. They weren't the Eagles of last year at all, by any means, offensively. And because of that, you got your defense going back out there again. You're on the field again. And you're going to get fatigued, and that's what's going to lead teams to just kind of run through you and score at will. This was a major problem from week 1 all the way through the season. So when that statistical data comes out at the end of the year and saying, well, they weren't a very good defense, we should fire the D coordinator. Hold on a second. Okay, but you went through changes on the roster defensively. Also, your offense didn't do their job. It didn't hold up their end to kind of give your defense a breather once in a while. They had to go back out there. They're rushed back on the football field again and again, and they're just out there way too often. This happens a lot in football where defenses look like they're struggling because they're fatigued, because the offense is lacking to score points. We've seen it 100 times through the NFL. It happens every single year to some team. And when you're not able to score points or stay ahead of a team, it drains the defense. Having to try to go back out there and stop them again, get a turnover, get the ball back for the offense again, give them another shot. They can only do that so many times before they just can't. They just can't do it. It's not because they don't want to. It's because they're so god darn tired. They can't keep playing at the high level that they were in the beginning of the game.
You got to score. The league has changed. The world's changed. I think Pete's a really good coach.
You got to score still, Joe, right? To win the games now. The world has
True.
changed.
It is true.
Apparently, to Colin Cowherd. Yeah, so, I mean, that was a surprising thing for me last week. Baltimore, definitely. What a heater there with the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans, though. And that Texans really show grit and pull that one out. Basically, yeah, Tennessee really putting it a hurting on Jacksonville. One thing about last week, though, too, what do you feel, what's your opinion about Dennis Allen and that whole victory formation and then hand the ball off for
You know
the
what that
touchdown?
was?
They said it was that all of a sudden Jameis Winston changed it at the line.
Jameis Winston actually audibled that play so he could hand it off and give it to Jamal Williams to get him a touchdown. Like, that's against coaching orders. Like, you were ordered to kneel the ball, end the game, just kneel the ball. We don't need to hike it and do anything. We've destroyed this team. We just blasted Atlanta. Probably definitely sealed the fate. Sealed the fate of Arthur Smith getting fired.
So, yeah, they had 41
That's really
points at
what
that
happened.
point. Yes.
And you audible it to hand it off to score a touchdown at the final seconds. That's why Arthur Smith had every right to be upset, every right to be irate and attack Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
And Dennis Allen was like, whoa, no, what do you mean? I didn't call that play. I didn't say that. He was supposed to kneel it. And obviously Dennis Allen right after the game, post-game press conference, it said, I didn't call that play. I wanted him to kneel it. We were not trying to score again. Jameis Winston is a huge issue. And we've seen him being somewhat of a head case in Tampa. And now
Somewhat?
he's a
head case
backup
in Florida
quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. You're a backup. That's all you're ever going to be anymore. No one's giving you any more chances to be a starter. Forget it. But you're a backup, and you go against the coach's wishes. Guess what? Guess who's got to find a new job? And good luck finding one, because who wants you on the roster now?
Yep.
Because you felt like helping your boy out and pumping his stats up. Get out of here.
Yeah,
Goodbye,
it is ridiculous.
Jameis.
It's like, yeah, what was your epic brilliance that you got there when you go in victory formation said, oh, wait, I'm looking at the defense. Hey, they're not really doing anything, guys. Here, audible out. You know what I mean? That doesn't show your defense reading prowess. You know what I mean? So, like, oh, if we run this, they're totally not going to be ready for this.
Think about it for the defense.
Ding,
Defense
ding,
is like
ding.
they're just going to kneel it. We don't have to do anything.
You saw it. That's why when they got pushed back so far, they're kind of like, what?
Like, you guys really did that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised a fight didn't break
it goes
out.
back. Yeah, it goes back to those Greg Schiano days where he would just fight it out right there. And when people were doing the victory formation, he would have guys go low and hit them.
Yep, hammer him.
On the defensive side.
Yeah.
That's why some of these guys even pulled off in that whole thing, because they didn't want to be. It was about camaraderie and the way the whole victory formation is and what it means.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why you don't do that. You know what I mean? Maybe teams start changing their mind about it, especially when they play the Saints again. Who knows? But yeah,
They're gonna blitz.
what a
They're gonna blitz.
D-bag move, though. Yeah, and again, Jameis Winston, yeah, good luck, buddy. But here we go. We're on to the playoffs here. Joe, let's just go through the AFC's bracket first and then the NFC. Again, let's take a look at it here. We've got the Buffalo Bills, again, that miracle game here, getting in here against the Miami Dolphins. It was tough, but that whole game, Miami really getting banged up even more on defense. It was tight right to the end, though, too, until Buffalo has finally started to stretch it out, and really a lot on Josh Allen with his legs, though, too, because early on, a lot, again, that recklessness, Joe. Again, they tell him he's a gunslinger and all this. We saw him full everything in that game, trying to do too much, force it out here, trying to be everything and all the whole time. Dude, take what they give you, settle it down, and use your legs if you got it. If it ain't there, don't force it.
Right.
Use your legs. You can do it. And you saw it. He was taking a bunch of different hits and ran 20 yards, a rip each one and getting it done. Not making no mistakes. And luckily they were able to come out of some of that here. And, with the pressure against Tua there at the end and then throwing the interception to seal the deal, it was tough. But now they're in. They face a tough defense in, the Steelers, but it looks like TJ Watt is questionable even for this game. So grinding in there. I like the story. I like the story of Mason Rudolph and these guys, grinding it out afterwards. We're talking about Mike Tomlin possibly being fired again. And lo and behold, here they go, and they make the playoffs.
They make the
once
playoffs.
Again,
You can't fire him now.
You can't. He's
You can't.
untouchable, right?
That's right.
Here they go. But this is a scary game now. You know, Buffalo's been on such a run, such a high in this last game, and a tough one. We've seen that lull afterwards with some of these teams. Buffalo, can they get it done here?
Buffalo, I mean, this is the thing, is your favorite now. You're not supposed to lose these games here. First round of the playoffs, it's unfortunate that you couldn't win that you couldn't just take over and be all that you can be. But you couldn't get the number 1 seed or number 2 seed, but because that's what they were shooting for, obviously. But here you are. You got to play the Steelers. Opening round of the playoffs, you got to make it happen. You got to handle business. The Pittsburgh Steelers look semi-healthy. It looks like Minka Fitzpatrick is going to make his return. He's a full participant this week. Also, DeMonte Casey has been restored to the active roster. Remember, he was suspended for a hit on Michael Pittman earlier in the year or later in the season. So overall, they're actually pretty healthy. The only guy that's kind of nicked up right now is one of their starting guards, Isaac Sumalo. So we'll have to evaluate that, obviously, as we get closer to the playoff game. And for Buffalo, the injury report doesn't look too shabby. They look all pretty much healthy. Micah Hyde is a full participant. Taylor Rapp, he had a calf injury last game. Obviously, he's like the backup safety, but he is a major factor when they put 3 safeties in the back end. So hopefully he's a go. Russell Douglas still out with a knee injury. We'll have to wait and see later in the week. I assume that all these guys are playing. This is playoffs.
Yeah.
So I just imagine whether they're banged up or not, they're going to be game day ready. So Josh Allen obviously has to have one of his better games and not the game that he had starting last week. He was pressured. He felt rushed. You could just tell that he wasn't being himself early on in that game, trying to make things happen just like you mentioned. And in this game, you got to come in calm, cool, collective. Just do what needs to be done. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to make the big play happen right away. It's going to come. It's going to come. You have Stephon Diggs at your disposal. Eventually, you're going to get a big play, along with James Cook, too. So just take what's given. That's all. Josh, just take what's given. If there's nothing there, take off. Escape if you have to. Mix it up that way with the running and the passing, and I think the Bills will be fine.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid ended up being a pretty big part of that game.
And he's been all year. And then also they have Dawson Knox back. So they got that 1-2 punch at tight end. So pretty healthy team. Steelers are healthy. I still feel like this is going to be like playoff football. This is going to be pretty good game to watch. But I got the Bills getting the win here.
All right, we've got Greg Schreiner's in the house with us tonight, Joe.
Yeah, Greg said, I love the 3 safety look. Yes, of course you do, because it works tremendously well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have the safeties to do
it. Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. So, and he said, he was, not so sure early on, but, he's pleasantly surprised, but he's not surprised that they beat the Dolphins because they own them. So, but he says surprised because they also lost a lot to injuries. So you're going with the Bills. Mm-hmm. I am going to go with the Bills as well. Again, at home, that, atmosphere, they're ready. This is the team, I think, to beat. They're coming in on that winning streak. But like you said, they cannot start the game off like they did in the last one because one of these teams is going to be
They might get – listen, if they have a rough patch in the beginning and the Steelers are able to capitalize on it and get one or maybe get a couple scores ahead, it's going to change the whole atmosphere of the game. It's going to really kind of bring a lot of pressure now to the Bills. And can Josh Allen be able to stay poised under pressure and make that comeback happen?
All right, next up in the next bracket, we've got the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City's going to be playing at home. Tyreek Hill gets to come back here to Kansas City and play against them. He looked really banged up in that matchup, too, last week. Yeah, he was just getting a beating. And if he caught a couple of those passes, which were catchable.
They were definitely – you got to catch those. You just got to catch them. They were right through his hands.
Story even.
Right through his hands. They probably win the game.
Those were key games. Those were key catches.
And they were big plays. It wasn't just like a 5-yard play. It was 20, 30 yards down the field.
Yep.
So – of course, it probably would have changed the whole atmosphere of the game. And the Dolphins had the lead early on. They could have really kind of like extended that lead, and it would have made it very difficult for the Bills to come back.
Yep. But playing in Kansas City, it's going to be tough. That atmosphere again is going to be tough to deal with. Miami, I really like what they're doing. It would be nice to see them turn around here, but injuries, especially on the defense, it's going to even in this game out. So it's going to be the two offenses against each other. I'm just going to go with the fact that it's Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes. I think if they do have mistakes or it is slower, they have the experience in the playoffs to get it done. Mike McDaniels, again, these guys, it's new territory for these guys going forward. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs at home.
Yeah, this is going to be very exciting because you have the whole storyline of Tyreek Hill returning to Kansas City, and how great is that going to be? So for the Dolphins, though, they are a little bit more banged up than the Chiefs. Chiefs are pretty healthy all across the board. No worries there. For the Dolphins, I'm interested to see if Xavier Howard's going to be able to return this week. We know last week he was out still with that foot injury, but this is the playoffs, man. Shoot up, tape it up, do whatever you have to do and get out there and play, because with Howard in the lineup, all I have to say is that when you have Howard and Ramsey on both sides, it changes the whole game. And we've seen Kansas City's receivers kind of be shaky at times. So if they're able to kind of lock them up and pressure and keep Mahomes contained. That's the other part of it. When you play Kansas City, you have to keep Mahomes contained. Do not allow him to escape and get yardage with his feet, because that's what kills defenses. So if they can do that and stay disciplined on defense, Dolphins got a shot in this one. Tua, though, we talked about Josh Allen's struggles last week. Tua struggled incredibly. Was missing wide open targets at times, throwing the ball away when you had an opportunity to get it to a receiver that happened to be wide open. Like, I remember there was a play where he rolled out to the left and the rush came from the left side. He's like, oh crap. So he turns around and goes to throw it. I think he's throwing it back to the running back that's standing over on the sideline about 4 yards down the field. He throws it just laterally, like it just throws it away. And it's like, dude, you had a running back waiting, uncovered, just waiting there for the ball. If you could have just turned around and threw it to him, he could have got a first down probably.
Yeah.
So it's plays like that where you have to capitalize. He has to capitalize just like Josh Allen does. And if he can do that and have a cleaner game this week, it's definitely going to give the Dolphins a shot. I think this is going to be one of those games where on defense for both teams, whoever doesn't blow a coverage, whoever doesn't screw up a mental mistake in this game is going to be critical. Offensively, it's going to be whoever can. Colin Cowherd said it best. He's like, you got to score points to win games.
Yes.
So whoever scores the most points are going to win the game.
Nice.
But I think that with the Kansas City's struggles this season, I'm kind of going to look for a different Tua this week. A more focused Tua, a more focused team for the Dolphins. And I'm going to go with Miami actually going into Kansas City.
All right. I like it. All right, next up, we've got here, lastly, for the AFC, because the Baltimore Ravens now have the sole bye. It's going to be the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. What's funny, if you look at the betting line, a lot is on Houston right now. Like, people are thinking they are the favorite right now.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, by a small margin. So it's kind of funny here. Is it just because they're at home because of the spot that they locked up?
Does Vegas know something we don't?
I don't know. But this is tough. It's like, are they just that big of a Joe Flacco hater? Like, I don't know.
Or is Vegas trying to skew the betting?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, everybody's betting Houston. Cool. Keep betting Houston, because we know that Cleveland's probably going to do some damage.
Yeah, because the way I'm looking at this one, yes, it's been a great story. Yes, they played well. It's nice to see. They had a close one here against the Indianapolis Colts last week, which, again,
that was a competitive game.
They're not a knocker, I'm not knocking on them completely, but they're
just a little bit.
They don't have the defense
just a little
of
bit
what this Browns has been able to do, and I don't think the magic of Joe Flacco is going to rub off even just overnight here. I think he's going to do enough. He's a veteran. He's been here before. Jim Schwartz has been here before, and this defense is ready. So I think defense wins championships. They're ready to turn it on, And the Houston Texans are going to fall in this one at home. It's going to be the Cleveland Browns moving forward to the next round to face up against the Baltimore Ravens. How about that? The former Browns.
Yeah,
I
right.
can't wait for that one.
One quick note here to watch is Amari Cooper, right? Was banged up, was out. He's resting his heel. That really bothered him a couple weeks ago. So I wonder how healthy he is. Is he healthy? Is he close to 100%? Can he possibly re-injure it and leave the game? Possibly miss the playoffs if that happens. That's kind of a huge thing. But what we noticed is that when Cooper wasn't available, guess who was? David Njoku. This guy, we've said it when he first got drafted. We're talking highly about him. We're like, wait until you see this kid. He's going to be the next great, one of the better tight ends in the league. And he wasn't for years. And it was like, wait, what the heck? The guy's got all the physical attributes. The guy's got the speed. He's got hands. Why aren't they using him? And until it seems like the last couple of seasons, last year and this year especially, is where he's being more ingrained into the offense. He's being used as the weapon that he should have always been used. And it's paying huge dividends for them. It's going to make Cleveland Browns offense extremely tough to stop. When you have both Cooper and Njoku and everybody else at their disposal. Grant Delpit, who's missed most of the season, is coming back from IR for the playoffs. So that's another huge defensive returning player. Other than that, Dustin Hopkins, his hamstring issue, hopefully he's going to be good too. What am I going to say here? Texans now. So the Texans, I've been riding with them all year. I was on the CJ Stroud train all season long.
Yes.
Kind of hoping Houston could, and they did a tremendous job with a rookie quarterback to go 10-7, and now they're ended up in the playoffs. Amazing. They are pretty healthy. There's not a spot on their roster where they're really banged up. I have to probably go Houston with this because I got to catch up somehow.
Yes.
I'm going to hope for a Houston upset here.
I don't doubt you for that,
and I'll tell you right now, is if Houston does upset Cleveland, it'll probably be as far as they go. It might be as far as they go, but what one hell of a ride for Houston.
Well, I was going to say even right now, because everybody talks about end-of-year voting, too, and who's the MVP and all this stuff, because I even got asked that the other day. Who do you think the league MVP should be? And it's still even debatable for a lot of people. Coach of the year. I think if they even come out of this first season, even
DeMeco Ryans.
now, DeMeco Ryans got to be up for it.
Oh, absolutely.
But if they pass the Cleveland Browns and face the Baltimore Ravens, does that jumpstart him into that where he's got to probably be the odds-on favorite? Then
I think he's already there
right now. So I'm just saying.
For God's sakes, you took a team that nobody, us included, we didn't think that Houston. We thought Houston was going to be competitive more than other people did. Everybody kind of wrote them off. Said, "Oh, they got a rookie quarterback. They're rebuilding. It's DeMeco Ryans' first year as a head coach. We don't think they're going to do much. We thought that maybe they'll be 500. Maybe they'll be more competitive than people think, but they just superseded expectations.
Yes,
they went 10-7 and they made the playoffs.
Yeah,
so they have the wheels turning. I think he's definitely got to be the favorite right now.
Right, that's funny because again they say when you look at the playoffs from the prior year, and then some of these guys, mathematically aren't going to be there. Which one it is going to be and who's going to be replaced with?
Right.
I would have never said Houston. So there you
right.
go. All right, so there you go. That's the AFC side of it. Let's move to the NFC bracket here. Let's take a look at the NFC bracket. We've got the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers here. Packers able to sneak in there too as well and get that playoff spot. And they played really good football too. And they did it the way we had said that they should do it too, Joe. And if they live by that formula, they have a shot to beat the Cowboys. Even though it's tough, the Cowboys undefeated at home this season, but Green Bay has the personnel. They're one of the youngest teams in the NFL, actually, by the way. I think they are the youngest. But they've got two great running backs and a quarterback that really doesn't create a lot of turnover. He tried to play it safe and, just be efficient. And if he can be efficient and they just run the ball, they can defeat this Cowboys team. We've seen the formula to beat the Cowboys, and it has been to run the ball up the gut around and stop Micah Parsons from getting those pass
Run
rushes.
it at him.
Yeah, exactly.
Wear him
Pound it
out.
right at him. That's the formula. And with having, healthy Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon right there, boom, bang, bang, that's the formula. And then, again, some safe, quick throws to these guys. He's getting better every week, Jordan Love. They have a formula to do it. That being said, though, it's going to be a tough mountain to climb.
It is. It definitely is.
So what do you think about this one, Joe?
This matchup is going to be amazing. And despite Dallas Cowboys going 12-5, we've seen them struggle too. Yeah, just like any other team. But and there's been points through the season where we're like, no way Cowboys lose this game. Arizona Cardinals. Are you freaking kidding me? The Cardinals beat the Cowboys this year. Like, what? Never thought that would happen at all. And it happened. So there was teams along the way where they lost to where it made you scratch your head, just like the whole season did for all these teams. We're like, there's no way the Niners can lose. And they lost to teams we never expected. So it's playoff time. Like it's a whole different season now. So a lot can happen. And just like you're mentioning, like if the Green Bay Packers can run the football, they are dangerous. And it's not just because they have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon running the rock. And both teams are very healthy. They're not too banged up. But if they can run on the Cowboys like you're mentioning, not to mention the receiving weapons that they have, and Jaden Reed, who's kind of emerged out of nowhere this year, and that Wicks kid, Demonterius Wicks, holy smokes, do they have talent. So just when you can get the running game going, now if the Cowboys step up, now's the time to play action and throw it to one of those receivers. So a lot can go well for Green Bay offensively. Now, my biggest worry and concern for Green Bay is defense. You have a Dallas Cowboys offense that is playing pretty darn good football. Dak Prescott playing probably the best football he's ever played. And CeeDee Lamb is a viable weapon that you need to consider double teaming. You got to try to keep him out. Then you also have the tight end after that you have to worry about. And obviously Cooks is like kind of like the number 2 right now. So my worry is that Green Bay plays predominantly a zone defense. And that doesn't work well against Cowboys offense. They're able to eat those zones up. CeeDee Lamb will find the gap in the zone. Dak will throw him the football and the run after the catch after that. So my issue with Green Bay defensively is that can they change up their defense? Do they have the personnel to where they could play man? Can you put Jair Alexander, lock him on CeeDee Lamb all game, man-to-man, and may the best man win? Make it more difficult for Dak to throw the football to his receivers that way. That's my concern, is can Green Bay's defense limit Cowboys' offense? That, to me, is a critical point right there. I think that determines the winner of this football game. Most likely, the Cowboys are probably going to win this game.
Yeah.
I got to go with Green Bay because I got to make up games.
There you go.
So I'm hoping
You
Green
knew
Bay,
I was going to pick Cowboys, though, right?
Yeah, I know you did.
Yes.
Because I'm down a lot of games. I need everyone.
Yeah, and well, you know what? I'm excited about that because, again, if I'm going to go with Cowboys because that's the safe bet there. And if I win, then I move forward. If not, I'm still happy because Dallas Cowboys are lost. And once again, they're one and done, out of the playoffs in the first round.
How many people has said that on our group? People have said, oh, the Cowboys made the playoffs. Oh, one and done.
Time
you know
for
what I
them
mean?
to be
That's
done.
the thing.
Yes.
You know, it's a stigma that they have.
It's a stigma that they have, yes. And they're going to try and paint this out to a whole thing again because, again, you've got Mike McCarthy, Green Bay comes to town. Oh, my goodness, you know, but you're not in Green Bay. You're not going to have that atmosphere. No. That's not going to be there. That's not the story.
He says it's just another game. That's what he told reporters.
Yeah.
I got news for you, Mike. When you go into Green Bay, you are the enemy. You are not going to be praised whatsoever. You're the enemy, it's going to be in Dallas.
It's going to be in Dallas, though. So
but you're going to have cheeseheads there.
It would be different.
There's going to be cheeseheads there. They travel like no other. So somehow they're going to get their hands on tickets, and they'll be there in force. Just like a lot of these games, a lot of the fan bases, they travel extremely well.
Right. And this one is going to be candy,
Insane.
low-hanging fruit, though, for media. Because if they win,
Right.
Cowboys are the greatest. If they lose, here we are again, Mike McCarthy and these guys can't get it done. Dallas Cowboys just can't get it done. Dak Prescott is not the guy.
Real quick on that. Mike McCarthy's job isn't safe yet. He made the playoffs, yes. They won the division, yes. However, there are reports out of Dallas that Mike McCarthy, even though he made the playoffs, if he loses in round 1 of the playoffs, Jerry Jones said himself that he'll have to think about his future. Just saying. So this is a bigger game, I feel like, for the coaching staff and the Cowboys to prove everybody wrong, saying, no, we're not going to be one and done anymore. And 2, it's probably fighting for Mike McCarthy's job as well.
Which is crazy. Again, because just for the fact that he's had such a long leash with Jason Garrett, things like that. Why all of a sudden you're just like, oh, we didn't get our championship quick enough. Here gone, I'm out of here. Who am I going to grab? Unless he really thinks that if it does, again, it doesn't work out, that he might get one of these other bigger personality.
Maybe. Or maybe that's what he prefers.
Things.
Maybe that's what he prefers. He wants
after,
because we all know Jerry Jones.
Again, honoring Jimmy Johnson
we
in
all
that
know,
last game. You know,
that was all set up. Like we all know that Jerry Jones is a very flashy type of owner. That he likes big time moves. He likes big time draft picks. Like that's why he took CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, CeeDee Lamb is here. Oh, we got to take him. It's going to make us look amazing. And you know what I mean? It's all a visual, cosmetic type of thing for him. He likes the big name, the big being in the big lights, and what have you. So if he could also pair his big team with a big name coach, it just kind of it's more like boasting for himself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to this is a good game. I'm ready to see here because this could be anybody. The Rams and the Lions here.
Yes.
Lions
Wow.
finally host a playoff game here and get to the playoffs. I'm excited,
And
but
who's gonna
worried
be
at
there?
the same time, though.
It's Stafford's return to Detroit. And
That's a bigger story
You
here.
can't even
There you
write
go.
like the script writers and everything.
Yes.
There's no way you could write this better. Both teams in the playoffs, his former team, his current team, and not only that, he's returning to Detroit where it all started to compete against his former Lions. Oh my God, this matchup is incredible. I am so happy this all worked out the way it did. It's like you couldn't write it any better. So Rams with Stafford, we've seen this offense grow and grow and grow over the course of the season. Puka Nacua, as a rookie, has shattered records this season. One of Stafford's favorite targets. And everyone's kind of like not really talking much about Cooper anymore. Cooper Kupp is like, oh yeah, he's good too, but we got Puka. So it's a very
part
funny
of that
thing.
is fantasy owners. Cooper Kupp hasn't done much for fantasy
No, but even
owners, so then
media-wise,
they get mad. You know what
even
I mean? Yeah, I hear
media-wise,
you.
it's
I
been
hear
like
you.
that.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing because it's
Well, what
a
are you
new.
gonna do when you're the
it's a
only
new toy.
guy, so you're even getting fed the ball nonstop where he was crushing it?
It's a new toy. That's what it is. It's a new toy everybody likes, and everyone's going to talk about it because it's a great draft pick. Turned
He's
out
Woody,
to be
and
extremely
Puka
well.
is Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, he's a new guy.
There
new
you
guy
go.
in town. But Cooper Kupp, make no bones about it. The guy's amazing. The guy is going to light it up in this game too. And Tyler Higbee, kind of the unsung hero of the Rams, like the guy that has to do all the dirty work and not get a lot of fame for it. When Puka's getting double teamed or both Cooper Kupp and him are taken out, Stafford turns to Tyler Higbee a lot and moves the chains and gets the job done. So, and then defensively for the Rams, this is a team that we had question marks coming into the year. We were worried about the young defense that they were going to put in place and together, and how good could they possibly be? We thought that the offense would be okay, but defensively was going to determine just how good of a team they were going to end up being. Ended up 10-7, very healthy team across the board, and that defense has really kind of come into its own as they went week to week to week, getting better and better and better. Now they're in the playoffs, playing Detroit, a team that very, very physical, and that's kind of what they want. The Lions, what they want to do is they want to chew the clock, have long, sustaining drives, keep the game as slow as possible, and score points at the end of everything. That is the game plan, pinpoint blank. that's how they're probably going to win.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot allow the Rams to score quickly and give you the ball back. And then if you go 3 and out, and then the Rams get the ball back, they drive down again, score quickly, and now you're down 2 scores. You can't let that domino effect happen in this game. Last week, Detroit handled business, but at the same time, there was points in that game where they went 3 and out, like right off the cuff. They went out there, they got the ball, and they went 3 and out. Stall drive. You can't have that in this game. In this playoff atmosphere, you have to stay. You're home for one. Use that to your advantage. Get the lead early and just hold on to it, and you'll be fine. That's the big thing. Another key element of this is Sam Laporta. Majorly hurt last week. He was at a walkthrough today, which is only a walkthrough. It's not really real practice. But added that'll be, it's difficult to know right now, midweek, if he's going to be able to go. Honestly, it sounds like he's definitely not going to be 100%. And I don't think he's going to be healthy enough with a knee issue to probably play.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks because it's a playoff game. You want to do whatever you can, but at the same time, man, you don't want to hurt your team too. Like, what if he goes out there and just completely blows his knee out on a first down
He's supposed to
play?
be there, it falls, and then it's
some-
picked off.
yeah.
Pick 6,
Like,
boom.
you don't want anything bad to happen. So it sounds like most likely Laporta might be out for this playoff game, which is a huge loss. However, Detroit's got to overcome it. It's next man up mentality in the playoffs, man. You gotta make it work. Jameson Williams, another name to kind of keep an eye on, a guy that's they drafted him in the first round, was injured all of last year, never really played very limited this year until towards the end of the season, where we started to notice him getting more involved. He's got to step up big time in this game.
Mm-hmm.
This game is epic. That's all I know.
Yeah.
This game is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, it's who's gonna score the most points, and again, there it is.
Is that
It's
what it
like,
is?
That's who's gonna do it.
Is that the formula to win?
That is the formula to win.
Okay,
If you guys didn't know that,
excellent.
but it's because these
great
defenses
knowledge.
have been good at times, but they're very leaky too as well. We've seen the pass rush kind of get to the backfield, but then again, the secondary is exposed on the Lions, so they give up a lot. So Aiden Hutchinson, he's always back there, but he just exactly doesn't get the hands on. So it's good. Matthew Stafford, known for pick sixes, things like that too. He's got
That's
one of
true.
the most in the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised. Again, you just got to get hands on him, though. You know what I mean? And then for the offensive side, for the Lions, stop Aaron Donald. That's all you really got to do.
Double
If you
team
try
him,
to
triple team him, do whatever you gotta do.
Get that done. Chip him, whatever. Give Jared Goff some time because, again, once he's pressured, it could be an absolute nightmare too. So I'm excited for this one. Overall, I'm going to pick first, I guess, so that way you can go against me or whatever ends up being.
That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to go with the Lions on this one. They're at home.
All right.
I'm excited. I want the Lions to win this one.
I mean, I definitely want the Lions to win. I'm rooting for the Lions. I've been rooting for them all year. I hope the Lions win, but I got to go with the Rams on this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if they win, though. That's the thing. That's the way with some of these games. It's
feel
playoff
like,
time, baby.
I feel like this game in particular is one of those games where, like, literally it could go either way.
Yep. And then finally now here for the bracket here,
Oh, boy.
Eagles and the Bucks. I tell you what, after last week, this game is a lot more intriguing to me.
It is very intriguing.
How about you, Joe? Again, another
Yes.
team where I thought they were going to play well this year.
Yeah.
The Bucks. I thought they were going to give the Saints a run for their money a little bit. I
Right.
thought it was the Saints division. To
Yeah, we
definitely
thought
lose.
that. Yeah.
I did not think much of Atlanta or the Panthers.
Well, they were all in the running.
But still, I didn't expect them exactly to be here in the playoffs either, though.
Right.
They've showed some good times, but then also not the best either. So what team are we getting out of the Bucks?
True.
Well, traditionally, lately, they've been a little more consistent, though, than what the Eagles have been. Eagles have been really, again, not very good. Can't get it all together. It looks like a team, I don't know, that's just not like they're not coached well or something like that, which I don't get because, again, it seems like Sirianni's got his guys, speaks the same language. They've been with him already. It's just something has not clicked this whole season except for the tush push. besides that, everything has been fine. But it just seems like there's something off between them. Offensively, they don't stick to the same game plan. I think right now, with the way their offense is now, it has to run through DeAndre Swift here. They're needing to run that ball and get him, because when he starts motoring, dude, the dude is a beast, straight unstoppable. Get him going early. Get that running game going. That will open up your passing game and alleviate the pressure off of Jalen Hurts. If he's even going to play, I don't know. He got banged up pretty well. How's it? Was it his leg or was it his finger? It was the finger. Was Hurts? He blasted his finger against somebody's helmet.
Yep.
That could be a factor,
And
because that was his throwing hand on this one. And then how healthy is A.J. Brown?
Just
so that's
shoot him
key
up
factors.
with painkillers. Just shoot him up with painkillers and tape. Shoot it up and tape it up.
Is shoot up before the game.
Shoot up and tape up. That's it.
Right, so here, what do you got in this one? Let's hear what you're saying.
I mean, you said a lot that was going to be said anyway. The one thing to keep an eye out too is Baker Mayfield last week sprained his ankle. I got rolled up on. That's something that gotta kind of wonder about, like how healthy is he going to be for this playoff game? He's going to have to move around, because what the Eagles do have is a really good pass rush. They have a really good defensive line. Hopefully the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line is up to the job, because this is going to be a battle for sure. And both quarterbacks coming into this game a little beat up. Hurts is a little bit more concerning for me because it's his throwing hand. He's got to be able to grip the football. He's got to be able to, feel the pressure in the football and be able to kind of fling it and roll it off his fingers. If he can't, it's going to affect his spiral. It's going to affect how much he can throw it. How good of a ball he can throw to get to his receivers. And A.J. Brown, that did not look good at all. And what I don't understand is apparently NFL.com did not even do an injury report on the Eagles. Yeah. It's not even on here.
Yeah. Nobody has done an injury report for this upcoming weekend. I don't know why. I'm looking at injury reports from last week.
No, I got.
Did you get?
I got
some
this
for the
week.
Other ones? Oh, I didn't get that at all. Even so.
But the thing is like the Eagles are missing from this lineup, so I don't understand why.
Shady. They're all shooting.
NFL.com. They do not want you to know who's injured. But anyway, that all being said, Tampa Bay, they were pretty rocky early on in the year. Mike Evans forgot how to catch at times. It was pretty disastrous.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield didn't look that good either. And when down the stretch of the season, it seemed like to all come together. Mike Evans remembered how to catch the football, started catching touchdowns. Baker Mayfield was, having some nice passes, some even really nice games. There was one game that kind of blew my mind. I think it was a couple weeks ago where he threw for over 300 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. No picks, no turnovers. So that's what you want to see from your starting quarterback. That gives Tampa Bay a shot. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers also have a pretty good defense when they're healthy. You know what I mean? So it looks to me like Tampa's pretty darn healthy besides Baker Mayfield. They're ready for the matchup. And these are two teams that don't normally play each other. So that's another interesting schematic about all this, is that how are they going to game plan for each other? And for the Eagles, like you mentioned, Swift is super deadly. Not even in open field, but even in between, in a phone booth, he's hard to tackle because he can just make a subtle move and make you just break your ankles. So I think I agree with you with the fact that getting Swift the ball early on, getting that running game going for the Eagles is going to be critical for them. If that is a problem, God help Hurts, because if that hand becomes an issue throwing the football, and now you have all that pressure, you can't run the ball, or you're struggling to run the football, you got to throw a lot more often than you planned on. So that could come into, whole aspect. I'll let you pick it so I can pick the opposite.
All right.
team.
Again, looking at the teams, Joe, the offense, 20th ranked here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I love it.
The defense, 7th against the points, 20th against, yards, or 28th.
Who cares?
Giving up a lot of yards. Now, if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, again, they're top 10 offense, 7th and 8th. They've been doing well. The defense, 30th. And on touchdowns, 31st, yardage, 31st. Again, so they're not getting off the field. So that's going to be tough here. But that offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers isn't very scary to me. And when it goes down to it, the Philadelphia Eagles, you're saying this Bucks team is a bend but don't break. They don't give up the points, but they give up the yardage. This Eagles team converts on third downs. They convert on fourth down, absolutely. So if it goes in the red zone, which they're ranked 9th, they're going to score. Come out there and score.
Maybe because it doesn't seem like they'll have A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I know.
That's big difference.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tougher game. It's going to make it tougher. But I'm going to roll with the Philadelphia Eagles on this one.
All right. I mean, I think the Eagles are going to win too, but I got to go with Tampa. I got to try to get something back here.
It would be amazing because what
Baker
an amazing
Mayfield
night.
can flip everybody off at the end of the game.
Well, if I pick the Cowboys and the Eagles and they both lose, I'm happy. Either way.
That's right. Yeah, you go.
I don't have anything to worry about for the rest of the playoffs in the Super Bowl. I don't care about any of the other teams. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're good.
I got you.
Right?
Yep.
So there it is. There's the wild card weekend, everybody.
Yo.
I'm
excited, man.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Playoff
it's going to be exciting.
football.
Any of the games going to be blocked out again. It was a bitch that I wasn't able to watch it on. Like some of these games, like I tried to watch the championship.
Oh wait, hold on.
Peacock and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
pain in the ass, dude. You know, I'm trying to watch the game summary and
if I'm not mistaken, I think one of these playoff games is on Peacock. To be
solely,
honest.
right?
Yeah, it's exclusive or something like that.
It's such a pain, bro. Like I don't mind using a streaming service, but if I have to pay for a separate one for each one, I don't see how that makes sense because these networks are paying a lot to get the game, but if you're not airing it on your biggest network like NBC, you're not going to get the views. You're telling me that now you'd have to try and convince somebody just to buy Peacock to get it, and they're solely in that they're going to do it? I don't think so, because I know another person that said, I'm not buying Peacock just to watch the game. If it's on NBC, I would watch it, but I'm not buying Peacock to watch the game. So you just lost out on a couple more. Yeah, you just lost out on
I'm not either,
then.
but I'm going to watch the game.
Yeah, you'll watch it some other way.
That's right.
Through some other service.
That's right.
Somehow. That will be able to get you your Peacock.
That's right.
But they're not getting the ratings that they want, you would think, which I think turns into revenue for them. This is where it doesn't make sense. YouTube just lost money on their plan to get the Sunday ticket.
Right. Yeah.
How are people not learning this yet?
Well, because we're in a new age of like everybody is now turning to streaming.
Feeling it out. So
well, everything's going to streaming eventually. Like there's not going to be cable anymore.
Right.
There's not going to be satellite dish and all that anymore. So we're being forced to advance with the technology that's given to us, to where streaming is becoming really popular right now, and they're kind of dipping their toe into different spots of the streaming pool and trying to see what works best. I feel like it's just a play to kind of figure out for the near future what they should do going forward. Like, should we do apps? Should we utilize this app, or should we just use YouTube? Like, you see them doing different things. So to me, it's like they're just testing everything. They're testing all the different apps. They're testing different ways to show the games. And then after they figure out, well, where did we get more following? We had more views on Amazon Prime. We had less views on YouTube. We had, until they gather all that information. And then I feel like they're going to make a decision going into the near future of what avenue they want to use for streaming. It's really what it is.
And I think who has the best presentation. You know what I mean? I think there's some things
they're lacking in that
about
department.
Amazon that I do like. I like the fact that when I get onto Amazon, I can even rewind back and catch where,
like a DVR.
It has even like a stat line, sort of like they used to do with like DirecTV when they came out with the fantasy. It would show you your stat line and that you can follow ahead of time. You see your leaders.
Yeah,
I like.
Yeah.
But again, the crew just seems like they're just not up to
They need
par,
to hire
bro.
us,
They need
Jim.
to hire better people.
That's all they need to do is they need to hire us. I'm sure that we could put together a way better product. Hell, we'll
I
even
can do
have
better than Carissa.
Oh, hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. And then, we could even have a couple of the football players on there. Yeah. We'll chop it up with them.
I'd have fun with Sherman. I think it'd
Definitely.
be fun.
Sherman would be a blast to do a show with.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And
Awesome.
Whitworth.
Yeah,
Whitworth.
absolutely.
Me and
I like
Whitworth.
it.
We'll
You guys
bond.
can be
We got
brothers.
bald
You
headed.
got to get your own little hoodie and then the suit coat.
I gotta
right
get
there.
this. Oh my god, I
Dude,
can't
you
stand
gotta
that
play
look.
that. I know. Neither he's doing it. Hey, he's rocking it, and I've seen some
'Cause he
people
can.
adapt it though. Some people have adapted it on ESPN.
Adopted it? Yeah.
yeah. They jumped onto it.
Really?
They've gone. Yeah, and
I
they've
can't
done
do it. I don't think I could do that.
I don't think I could either. I don't want to. That's one of those things. It's like, dude, the dude's wearing like. Does anybody see this? The dude's wearing like not even a heavy sweatshirt like this, just one of those athletic ones.
Yeah.
And he put a suit coat
suit
on,
coat.
and he thinks that's okay. Did anybody else notice this? And they're just like. That's okay.
It's
like,
not
that's
very
dress
formal.
Up. You still think that's dress up still? Like ESPN and or NFL was like, you're supposed to wear a suit coat when you're on air, all right? Well, he shows up in a sweatshirt, hooded thing with a sweat coat. He's like,
I got
he
it.
said I got a
That's
jacket on. I'm like,
That's right.
All right, let's go with it. Why fuck it?
That's it.
You know, and they just roll with it. Whatever, dude. I don't want the trend to keep going. Just like, hey, I'm like that with Crocs though, but everybody in the whole fucking world wears them. I will never wear Crocs.
I tried them. I
Did
tried
you
to
like
wear
it?
them. I hated them.
There you
You
go.
want to know why? They're not freaking comfortable.
That's why everybody keeps telling me that they are. So
They are
comfortable.
not.
I don't. Think
I'm
they
here.
Are.
I'm here to say Crocs are not comfortable. Come at me.
There you go.
Anyway,
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
settle down, Peter. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to all our sponsors. Also want to thank all our know-it-alls out there. Tom Leiter, Greg Schreiner, just to name a few. We had a bunch of people comment. It was an awesome show. Tune in next week, Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. We'll be here to talk more playoffs and whatever else happens because we're not out of the neck of the woods yet with news. So if you want to do us a huge favor, help us grow our YouTube community over there. Head over to YouTube, search us up if you feel like it. Click that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And of course, like, comment, all that deal. Share it. Share it to everybody that you know. Would be much appreciated. And you can also follow us anywhere you get your iTunes.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.